All right, hello world. This is CS50 on Twitch. My name is Colton Ogden, and today we're joined for the first time by Erin Carvalho. Erin, why don't you give us a little introduction?
Yeah, so my name is Erin, and I've been working for CS50 for about 3 years now, mainly sort of working with high school teachers and our outreach efforts to sort of bring this curriculum to a high school classroom.
CS50 AP it's called, right?
Yes. So it maps to the AP Computer Science Principles course for high schoolers.
Nice, nice. Working alongside Doug and Greg and some other folks on the team. And today, and you've used, so I should say, we're talking today going back to the front end stuff. So I typically am on here. We cover stuff from scratch, build applications, build games, all kinds of stuff. But we've been transitioning a little bit into web development. And last web dev stream that I did was a CSS stream, and we covered some of the basics of that. But you know, a lot of the time we don't necessarily write CSS from scratch, or at least it can be kind of painful to do so, as we saw even in the last stream. But we're going to be taking a look today at a really cool framework called Bootstrap, and some folks in the stream might be familiar with it. You've used Bootstrap before.
I have in a few projects, yeah.
Is it used at all by chance for any of the CS50 AP stuff, like the websites?
We don't explicitly call it out, but we definitely reference it for teachers who are a little bit more comfortable in that area, just so that they can provide that for their students.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, it's a super cool framework. And if folks have not used a framework yet, this will be their first exposure perhaps to one.
Yeah.
I want to just shout out everyone in the chat who was here in advance. We saw a few people, so Bella Curious, Nabil X, Akash Tripathi, Kaiser Twitch, Crazy Flock, Whipstreak, and Nate was a little bit confused as to why one of his messages had been blocked. He said MK in caps. To answer your question, Nate, I think it's the Twitch bot, and it caught the fact that you were using capitalized letters, and it thought you were yelling or something. So that's pretty funny. So the Twitch bot is very, yeah, it seems sensitive to certain rhetoric, I guess. Or faux rhetoric, anyway. Budanag saying that they're having the buffering issue. Is that on Twitch or is that on another website? If it's on Twitch, I know that Twitch doesn't do live encoding to a lower format, so check out our YouTube channel, check out Facebook if you're having rendering issues. Amit Shore is plugging the Bootstrap link. We have a few messages from him as well. Awesome. Navis, Indra Reddy, Maybulb 2006. Lots of awesome people in the chat here, some new people and some old people. I'm going to, no yelling to the adamantine. Yeah, no. I guess if you want to yell, I'll approve your message after the fact, but our Twitch bot will ban you. Or not ban you, but ban your message, which is kind of hilarious. I'm going to transition my computer over to, or I'm going to transition the OBS view over to my laptop so we can see sort of what we have going on here. So this here, if you go to getbootstrap.com, which Amit Shore kindly plugged in the chat, you'll get the documentation, the homepage for the Bootstrap framework. And Bootstrap is really cool. It allows us to do a lot of awesome stuff without having to necessarily write it from scratch. It's kind of like a buffet for CSS is kind of how I like to think about it. We'll take a dive into all the different components and layout system and all that sort of fun stuff. I want to apologize to the folks on the stream here who tried to catch the couple of the streams earlier this week, the crypto stream and the solitaire stream. So I was sick for the solitaire stream, and then the crypto stream we were having technical difficulties. So it's been a little bit of a messy week. I apologize for that. But we should be going strongly after today, hopefully at least into the near indefinite future. Paulton1987 says, hello, Ogden. Hello, Paulton. Thank you very much for joining us. Kaiser Twitch, will this be on YouTube afterwards? Yes, it will be on YouTube afterwards.
Gonna plug that link?
Yeah, sure, actually. It might screw up the chat, though, actually. So just go to youtube.com/cs50, and that will take you to our YouTube channel where you can see not only this, but lots of other video series we've done, including David's lectures on CS50 at Harvard, the CS50 course. And I actually have to let David know that we are streaming right now so that he pops into the chat. Hold on, streaming now. So maybe we'll see David J. Malin make an appearance in the chat here very shortly. Cool. So Bootstrap. If you go to getbootstrap.com, you'll be taken to this nice looking URL. And actually, the pieces that we see here are representative kind of the Bootstrap aesthetic, you know, the typical like nav bar on top of the page.
Very like minimalist, kind of less is more style.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things, a very common way, at least that I know that a website is using Bootstrap, is seeing a navbar kind of like this with the flat colorization and like the left and the right side sort of stacked nav links. We'll take a look at actually how to implement this, and we'll include this in I think a web page we'll end up making from scratch a little bit later once we've covered the basics of Bootstrap, just to kind of tie everything together. And I thought that it would be kind of fun to do a Pokemon theme.
Yeah.
We might do an Elfie theme in the future. So Aaron has a dog named Elfie who comes into the comes into the store, comes into
the office.
Is there an easy link I can grab a
her
URL?
Instagram.
Is it on here? Do they have Instagram on the web browser?
Yeah. /Elfie and the city.
Like that?
Yep. That's her Insta.
Okay, awesome. So here we go. So here's, if you want to see Aaron's lovely dog Elfie, who we were going to make potentially a sort of, I guess, a Pokemon, a faux Pokemon. We were going to make her one of those. You can see that she voted.
She is a little bit of a Pokemon. So.
A little bit, yeah. She's adorable. And there's her as a puppy. She actually used to wear a diaper, actually.
Yeah, she's very cute.
But yeah, that's Elfie. So shout outs to Elfie. Danks987 as the dog emoji in there, which is nice. So getbootstrap.com will take you to the website. Now, if you want to actually use Bootstrap and all of its components and all of its awesome features, and it has both a CSS side and a JavaScript side. We'll be covering the CSS side today, the JavaScript side maybe in the future when we do maybe a more dynamic website. After we do like a JavaScript basics tutorial, I think. We got 2 Charizards there in the chat. Nice. Perfect. Actually, we're going to need 6 Pokemon. Danks987. I would like to hear about Foundation Framework as well, if possible. General info. I actually haven't used Foundation a lot, and I was going to say 2 of the other frameworks that people might be interested in that I've seen, and you might know of more of them.
Yeah.
Are Foundation, which is this one, which looks pretty similar. This isn't a very great illustration, but kind of looks like this. Pretty basic, a lot of UI elements, kind of this top nav bar as well. There's this framework, which is kind of, them and Bootstrap have sort of been synonymous, at least the last few years. And there's also one called Semantic UI. Whoops, not Semantic UO. Semantic UI, which this one is actually really cool. I like this one a lot. I haven't used it a lot, but the components and the way that they style the way that the CSS is named is really cool. Like you can see here, you have the option to actually run it. So it shows you what it looks like beforehand. And then if you hit run code, you'll see that it gives you this really nice sort of almost like YouTube tag component here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's little ways to animate stuff, nice and cute like that. There's a lot of really cool components. I like Semantic UI a lot, and I think it's really readable. So we might actually do a tutorial on Semantic UI in the future.
Yeah, I've never really used it, but it looks pretty cool with all the different animations and stuff.
Yeah. Akash says, thanks, Colton, to make me fall in love with game development. My pleasure, Akash. Thank you very much for tuning in, and glad that that has inspired you a little bit. But yeah, Foundation, Semantic UI, Bootstrap, these are all CSS frameworks that are meant to sort of get you, like, per the name bootstrap you up from nothing into something that looks somewhat serviceable without too much effort. And if you know the raw CSS, you can kind of customize it to your liking. And if you're more like me and you're not super great at CSS, you can sort of pick and choose the pieces that you want, a la a buffet of sorts, which is kind of how I like to think about Bootstrap and these other CSS frameworks, especially when we start looking at all the different components.
And like Colton mentioned, it's very customizable. So instead of just linking it as a Bootstrap link in your HTML, you could actually download the entire thing and sort of customize things there too if you're even more comfy.
Nice, yeah, exactly. And a ton of people use Bootstrap all over the place. So Stack Overflow is just ripe with, like, if you're looking to get a specific look or a specific component to function the way that you want, Stack Overflow is your best friend, honestly. Yeah. I use it all the time. I'm feeling dehydrated and should drink water. Any tips? I'm not sure if I'm missing a joke there, but definitely grab some water if you're thirsty. Water and sleep, says Nate. Nice. Oh, and we actually have 23 written in the chat bar on accident.
I think that was when you were trying to switch views.
Okay, cool. So getbootstrap.com, that's the page you're going to go to. I think I've said that like 4 times now.
Yeah.
I apologize. Once you actually get there, you can go to hit this download button right here, nice in the middle of the page. And they actually let you do a couple of different ways. So a common way that you'll get these and other resources like jQuery, which is another popular JavaScript library, is you'll rely on other people in the world hosting the library on a server somewhere, on a CDN, Content Delivery Network. And you can actually embed the CSS and JavaScript, and it looks like the dependencies, excuse me, here with, and there's a little bar that's kind of screwing up how it looks because it's so small. But there's a couple of links here. So if I copy these.
You can actually just hit that copy button in the little corner.
True, true, true. We can do that too. I'm going to open up VS Code. And got release notes here. And a styles.css and an index. I think that was from potentially the other day, or the other CSS stream. I'm going to open up this Bootstrap folder. Going to just maximize it. Going to create a new file, index.html. And in here, I'm going to do the old classic HTML sort of, what's it called, starting point, with which VS Code gives you, which you can just press down and hit tab. It'll do that. And then you can just sort of copy right in here those links that I got from the Bootstrap page. So there's a link and a script tag. So the link is a style sheet reference. So that's actually grabbing the CSS. And then the script is actually grabbing Bootstrap's JavaScript. And there's a couple of dependencies depending on what widgets you want to use. Popper, Slim and Popper, which are two different of the two libraries used for some of the components within Bootstrap. You can actually conditionally input those depending on whether your website uses those components.
Yeah, because I know some of them use Popper and most of them don't actually. Only a couple of the Bootstrap things use Popper.
Yeah, which is nice. They don't. They tell you too in the documentation, really nice and upfront, like, oh, this is a JavaScript component. Gonna grab some water, thanks, says Tim Power. Awesome. OK, cool. So that's how you would get it if you were using the CDN links. Notice that these are referencing URLs that are not obviously on my local machine. Like this is bootstrapcdn.com. Both of these are stackpath.bootstrapcdn.com. So they're hosted online for us.
You can totally visit them too and sort of check out what's going on a little bit underneath the hood.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you want to actually host this on your server or on your local machine, you don't want to fetch the URL every single time. You have the option of doing that by actually grabbing the download here. If I were to click this download button, it'll download the Bootstrap 4.3.1. This is the current version. We're on Bootstrap 4. There was Bootstrap 3, which was used for a long time, and then they changed to 4. They added Flexbox and a bunch of other stuff. So there are some changes that are breaking that you have to be aware of, and I actually found out some of those last night related to table alignment. Yes. I also want to shout out Matt Kafui, K. Cyril, Nikhil 0211, and Kromka06 for the follows. Sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that just be sure that when you're searching stuff in Stack Overflow that you're referencing the right version of Bootstrap, so Bootstrap 4 here.
Good point. Yeah, because you don't want to be trying to use Bootstrap 3 because they literally added Flexbox to everything in Bootstrap 4.
Yeah.
And so a lot of Bootstrap 3 was based on floats, which to this day I still don't quite understand 100% perfectly. But Flexbox is a lot more flexible of a system than using floats and clear fixes. So I would say probably for the better that they changed everything.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you would get like some deprecation error message.
I didn't get a deprecation error. What I got, well, actually, I didn't check the console. Well, it's a CSS thing, so maybe there's a JavaScript hook. But I did get weird behavior and weird like sort of borders and stuff like that. Yeah. So Luigi Morelli TW for the first time. Hi, folks, finally here. So shout outs to Luigi Morelli, who has been on the Facebook, the CS50 Facebook for many years now, since I started actually in 2013. Yeah. 2013, 2014.
I think we met him when we went to London.
I believe. Oh yes, we did. Yeah, we did briefly. Yeah, I remember that. It was like I think
2 years ago.
Like 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah. Very brief exchange, unfortunately, but it was nice to meet in person finally. What is better, using the CDN or a local copy of Bootstrap? A question from Rizwan on YouTube.
Like any question, it depends.
Yeah, it's very subjective. It's nice, I think, to shift the burden of network requests from your server to someone else's server, I think, in most all cases. So I would say probably the CDN, honestly, and most browsers will just cache the CSS and JavaScript from a web page anyway. So it's not like you're necessarily shifting a tremendous load onto the CDN. I mean, at scale you are, yes, because millions of people will be downloading that file. But they won't be downloading it repeatedly. Typically, they'll be caching it in their browser. So I would say probably using the CDN link makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, especially for the scope of most projects. Yeah. I think that's just the typical case, right?
Yeah. But I don't think ultimately it matters tremendously. You will be serving that CSS and JavaScript every time somebody makes a request to your server if you're hosting it yourself in production. So just be mindful of that. Cool. Everyone's shouting at Luigi.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. All right, cool. So when you download the Bootstrap folder, you'll see that you get the CSS and the JavaScript as two separate subfolders of that zip. We're not going to be using the JavaScript today at all. We're just going to be looking at the CSS. And there's multiple different versions of Bootstrap. And in particular, the one that we'll be using is Bootstrap, either bootstrap.css or bootstrap.min.css. Bootstrap, Reboot, and Grid, I'm not 100% sure what they do. Do you know offhand what those do?
I'm not entirely sure, no.
I didn't look that up in advance, which I probably should have done. But with Google, we can probably find out. Bootstrap, Grid.
That's just
they always use the grid system. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the difference is with the Bootstrap Grid.
Do you want to try Reboot? Maybe that.
Yeah, let's look up Bootstrap Reboot and see what that does. I wonder if that's like a retro Bootstrap, like it has the float instead of the.
Maybe.
Oh no, it's different. Reboot, a collection of element-specific CSS changes in a single file. Kickstart Bootstrap to provide an elegant, consistent, and simple baseline to build upon. That's a very vague paragraph.
Maybe it's just like a subset of some of the components.
Let me see. What do we have here? Oh, you know what? I think it is. I think it's Grid and Reboot are like taking out chunks of Bootstrap rather than the whole framework altogether. And if we looked at the sizes of these, 65 for Bootstrap Grid and 192 for Bootstrap.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably what it is. They're just subcomponents of the whole framework at large.
Yeah, so maybe you don't want to like use some of the like pretty buttons of CSS, and you just want to be able to have access to those 12 columns that we'll talk about later in Bootstrap. That you'd probably just want to use Grid instead of the entire CSS.
And one thing to be mindful of too, if you're hosting it on your own platform or even just deferring it to Bootstrap CDN, is it'll ship with a bootstrap.css, just a regular .css, and then a bootstrap.min.css. In this case, there's not a tremendous actual difference in the size, but typically what this will do is shrink down the code substantially. And I think this applies more to JavaScript. If we were to look at bootstrap.js versus bootstrap.min.js, yeah, you can see bootstrap.js factors down almost to a third of its size. And what this does is it effectively just condenses everything down, obscures all the variables, eliminates all the white space, and just makes it as compact as possible so that you're serving 52 kilobytes instead of 132 kilobytes.
Yeah, so one of them is obviously more readable, but obviously the computer doesn't need to be able to read it the same way that we do, so that minified version is definitely saved space.
Yeah. And CDN checked with hash, I'm assuming probably. I'm not 100% sure, actually. I haven't looked too much into that. I know that for our own CDN, we typically hash everything. I would hope that Bootstrap does that as well, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, that's the difference between min and regular CSS and JavaScript. And it's important to probably distribute your min versions in production and to use the regular versions if you want to debug, dive into the code, manipulate things yourself, kind of overwrite variables and tweak the CSS. But typically you would also do that in your own separate file so that you're not changing your Bootstrap file. You're kind of layering on top of it, adding your own styles.css or main.css or
and that's
whatever.
sort of just the nature of CSS, right? The point that it's cascading.
Yeah. You can sort of apply changes and overwrite changes and then have those sort of proliferate throughout your code base, which is really cool. Remote's in. Hello, Remote. Can you cover what Sass mixins are for Bootstrap at some point in the stream, says Adamantine? That's a little bit beyond my scope of knowledge, I think, at this point. I was reading about it a little bit. I don't know if you're too familiar with it.
Not super familiar.
I've read the documentation. They do a really good job of sort of covering all of that in the different subsections. To be honest, I'm not actually super great with Sass either. I've used Sass a little bit, but I'm not a Sass expert. Brian knows much more about Sass, but I'm not sure if he has the time in the next week or two to do a stream on that. But I can ask him maybe if we want to do a separate stream on making a project that uses Sass mixins. But that's more on the development side, I think, if you were to actually start developing Bootstrap or customizing it and you have Sass experience. Beyond my particular expertise, though. But this is Bootstrap. Once you have it set up, we can actually test it to make sure that we have it working. If I were to create a container, this would be class equals container. Whoops. Doing everything live, so I might screw up one or two things. And I'll say this is CS50 on Twitch. We'll see if this works. So right now I'm fetching the JavaScript and the CSS. I'm just going to fetch the CSS for now. And
do you actually want to comment that out really quick just to show people what it would look like if we didn't have Bootstrap?
Yeah, I'll do that. And also, to M. Kloppenberg's point, it looks like they do hash it. There's an integrity hash here, an integrity SHA. So it looks to me like that is, in fact, done. David J. Malin, hey all, thanks for tuning in today. So nice, he has indeed tuned in. Cool, so let's do that. Let's do that exactly. So I'm going to just do that. Can't really type too well. Oops. VS Code tries to be helpful, but sometimes it's not incredibly helpful. So this class isn't going to mean anything, actually. But let me go ahead and run this. So it's in my folder here. If I run this, it's a very vanilla sort of, we've seen this many times already. Until we screw up, we won't learn, says Babak Knight. I appreciate the support. Oh, Borgix, Bjorn, nice. Good to see you, Bjorn. I think is this your first time being on the stream? Because if so, welcome. Thank you for tuning in.
Yep. So if you've taken CS50, this might look something similar to like your Hello World page. Just CSS.
Yeah. No, zero CSS, nothing at all. Not even our own custom CSS.
Yep.
Not even Bootstraps yet. But as soon as we take away the comments, and recall those are how you do HTML comments with the sort of less than exclamation point dash dash. We have this class equals container, which isn't terribly useful. But H1s have a default styling. So if we were to refresh this, we do indeed see that our page now has this different font. Things are kind of shifted over a little bit because it's in a container. The container hasn't been center aligned yet. So I believe if I just do text center like that and refresh, we do indeed see that we have a centered container in our web page. And this is just one of the nice things Bootstrap gives you for free, a very easy way to center text and other containers in your web page. Bjorn says, watch the recording in the past. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate having you with us. Danks987 says, cool. Awesome. So that's how you know that you have Bootstrap installed.
Yep.
Just as a sanity check. We haven't done anything terribly fancy yet. We will be making a slightly more complicated web page a little bit later. But before we do that, we're probably going to cover what a lot of the components are and explore just how awesome the actual Bootstrap documentation is. Because I think the Bootstrap docs are really good.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of Bootstrap, actually. So Reboot, we're not going to read a lot of this stuff kind of in too much detail. We're going to be looking at kind of more of the visual stuff because Bootstrap docs do a really great job of showing you what everything looks like. And you can look and at a glance determine what you might want to include in your web page. Sort of like I said, buffet style, take the bits and pieces that are pertinent to what you're trying to accomplish. And then if you're curious about how it works, if you're curious about the styles, the actual specific details, you can dive into the text and read all this information. Like, for example, it says, all heading elements, e.g. H1 and P, are reset to have their margin top removed, which is cool. So things aren't quite as spaced apart.
Yeah, vertically.
Yeah, margin bottoms, they do have a bit of margin bottom. So everything is kind of spaced at least on the bottom edge of it. And paragraphs have a little bit of extra margin to make for more spacing.
Yep.
So if you're curious about any of those details, you can read about them. If not, you can sort of look and say, oh, OK, this is what H1s, H2s, H3s look like. These are what lists look like. They've been nice and styled. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and these are all just your normal HTML elements that this is sort of like the costume that Bootstrap is putting on it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this goes kind of to demonstrate just how important a good font choice is, right? And not to say that necessarily the Bootstrap font is the greatest font or the best font. And actually, you can get a little bit fatigued looking at the same Bootstrap font over and over again. And you can kind of recognize Bootstrap applications at a glance. Yeah. But I'll take this any day, I think, over raw HTML. And you can easily kind of toss in your own font family wherever pertinent. One Day My Love says, it would be interesting to watch a full stack application with authentication users and such. I agree. And actually, Nick and I might do we were talking about this, maybe doing like draw a stack out of a hat. Like draw a random framework out of a hat.
Yeah.
Please turn on the Drake Hotline Bling song, Shanker23 says. I think we would get blacklisted for doing that. So otherwise, I would be happy to do so. But yeah, I think we might do something like that. We might do like a random framework out of a hat, like, I don't know, we'll have like React and then Angular, Vue, whatever other sort of SPA frameworks there are with like Foundation, Semantic UI, Bootstrap. And then we might do some like crazy back-end stuff, like maybe even like Clojure, which is a language I've been wanting to learn, but maybe even something like Flask, Django, Rails.
Yeah, you just set up a random generator. And,
yeah, exactly. And then Nick and I just sort of like struggle and power through a whole day of...
It'll just be a lot of
Laravel, yeah, if we want to really hurt ourselves, yeah. Although I know David enjoys Laravel. Kotan, I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly. And Shanker23, thank you very much for the follows. Django Fullstack says JL97. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I know Brian knows Django, so actually he'd be well equipped to do a Django
Yeah, I
stream.
think our original AP CS50 website was in Django.
Oh, okay. Do you have Django experience?
I do not.
Oh.
Brian actually built that from scratch.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, actually. Poorly defined behavior says that'd be so cool. I like that, poorly defined behavior. Hello from India. I've been following David Malin for more than 6 to 7 years now. Love CS50 online courses all the time. Helps a lot in my job. Awesome, Kamar. Thank you very much for tuning in and for sticking around.
What's the difference between Django and Flask? Made out 2006.
Why don't you answer that question while I do some audio troubleshooting really quick?
So Django and Flask are sort of both web applications that serve. You're gonna have to help me out a little bit.
What is the question? Sorry.
Django and Flask.
Django and Flask. So Flask is a micro framework, so it's a little bit smaller. It has fewer like built-in stuff. Django has like a built-in ORM and like a bunch of other crazy stuff.
Because I know like generally you can kind of use both of them.
Yeah, to accomplish the same thing, you can use a lot of them. With Flask, you have to import more, like if you want to do database stuff, you have to import like side plugins, whereas Django comes with all that stuff. Django, I believe, has admin views sort of built in, which is really cool. There's a lot of stuff that Django sort of has built in, like all like it's like a kitchen sink web development framework. I think that's the right term. And then Flask is more like I want to be as minimal as possible and just get exactly the pieces I need and like import like the submodules that I need. Okay,
so one sort of gives you a bunch and you pick and choose from that versus one having very little and you having to sort of build onto that with the different features that you want.
Exactly. If you want to keep reading the chat too, I'm going to take a look at what's going on here. We have a Facebook audio issue apparently.
Both Twitch and YouTube chats on stream. I've seen some Twitch streamers do it right here. Actually, Colton and I were just talking about that before the stream started, that would be a cool Twitch bot to write, would be combining all the comments from the various places that we stream to. What are your views on Angular versus React? I've only really had experience with React. Colton, do you have any experience with Angular at all?
I used it very briefly. It's interesting in that it does a lot of like HTML attributes to accomplish the stuff that React does. I like the way that React lets you sort of write in JSX, the raw HTML style, personally. But I know that Angular has been regaining traction recently, so I'm not entirely sure if maybe it changed a lot since the last iteration I looked at. I think I did Angular 1, and then they came out with Angular 2, and I did not keep up with the differences there.
Yeah. And that's sort of the problem with a lot of these frameworks is once you sort of get accustomed to writing it one way, then they like update it, and then a bunch of the things that maybe you liked sort of got deprecated, or they've changed the syntax on you, and now some of your stuff is broken. I know Django recently, or not recently, but within the last maybe 1 to 2 years, released some update that broke our AP website, so we had to go in and fix that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So.
It can be pretty crazy. Angular 7 is in trend. They've come out with 6 versions since then.
You really jumped off the boat there.
I did. I do not remember much about Angular. Can Bootstrap be used if I need to create a web page from a design file which was created by Designer, or Bootstrap can be applied for some general websites? Danks987, if you're referring to like Photoshop, like a PSD, then it's a pretty manual process. Unless somebody's written a utility to sort of convert that into CSS, which I think there are some of those with varying sophistication. I think in general, from what I've read and researched, because I haven't done a lot in that space, I think typically designers, HTML design, CSS designers, will hand convert what they see and import, using the images and stuff that's in the PSD, but the layouts themselves will be largely, those will be largely hand imported or hand tweaked. So it seems it seems like one of the audio channels is, I'm not sure if you're familiar. So Ian Sexton and Tara Kavanaugh, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, we have a Facebook audio channel issue on the side, so we're just trying to debug that real quick. So it goes in, okay.
So is it
mute your microphone.
Is it too loud or too? What
it's missing. Because on here you can actually see it. It looks like there's only one audio channel. Typically there's 2, I think.
On that, okay.
So apologies, everybody. Vue is popular, says Adamantine. Yeah, Vue is definitely getting traction too. We actually used Vue for, I think in CS50 this last year, we used Vue as part of the last, it might have been that, or it might have been a different class that CS50 was teaching. I'm not too familiar with it, though, to be quite honest with you. Flask is lower level than Django and programming language Spirit if it helps. Yeah, that's kind of apt. They're both fairly abstract, but yeah, I definitely see what Bavik is going with that. Django does a lot more for you, but it also has kind of a. Some people are saying that it's opinionated, and yeah, it does expect everything to sort of be in the right spot. And actually, some people are shouting out. It says, "Hi, Ian," says Bavik Knight.
Hello.
Ian says hello. How about semantic UI? I find it far easier and eye-pleasing than Bootstrap, says M4NJHU. Yeah, we actually touched on that very briefly at the beginning of the stream. I like semantic UI a lot, but I haven't learned it yet. But it is one of the things that I want to learn, and we can probably expect a stream on it in the near future. But currently, I can't speak too much on the actual use of it. There is a slice tool in Photoshop, but the problem is the slice tool uses HTML tables. This was in Photoshop CS6 version. Yeah, I'm not sure, Indra. I do not do much of that at all, actually. React has a lot of issues with libraries. Angular is a lot better, says Kumar Mahendra. Interesting. Yeah, I need to spend a little bit more time in that space, sort of working on it. And thank you, Suraj Pandey, for the follow. Belakir says, hello, Ian. And then Bavik Knight says hello to the other person that joined.
Who is
Ian.
the other lady other than Erin? That's Tara.
Tara Kavanaugh.
We like her.
Is Tara still here? Where'd she go? Oh, no, she bounced. OK. So yeah, that problem's being sort of sorted out. But yeah, we were talking earlier about the, I guess this first reboot page. And the reboot page, I think, is kind of describing how Bootstrap changes the way things look sort of at large. Not really the components, but like the spacing, the fonts, the way things like lists are rendered, things like tables even. Actually, well, tables is coming in.
Sort of like just the elements of Bootstrap that doesn't include including the classes and like the very specific aspects of Bootstrap.
Yeah, things that are sort of hidden that you just get for free by importing Bootstrap.
Yeah.
React all the way says M4NJHE. Yeah, we're going to have a very opinionated chat here as we start diving into the world of web development. Suraj Pandey, I think I said thank you for the follow. That's a Korean name, and I cannot read that. I apologize, but thank you very much for the follow. Anshu1, if it were in Japanese, I'd have a chance, but in Korean, I have not learned Korean yet. Anshu1, thank you very much for the follow as well.
Or even Spanish. You know a little bit of Spanish.
A little bit of Spanish, yeah. I could read the Japanese. I couldn't necessarily promise that I'd know what it says, but I could potentially read it.
Oh, we got someone who tunes into the media course on Mondays.
Oh, shoot. Bavik Knight says, I love the media course lectures on Mondays by Ian and Dan.
Hello.
Nice. Ian says hello again. All right. So we were talking about earlier, so we looked at headings, we looked at lists. This is what lists look like now. They look a lot nicer than they did before.
Yep.
They have the numbers look kind of nice. The dots look nice. It's not like as blocky as, old school looking as the other lists were.
You get some margin
lists.
stuff for free. You get some bolding for free.
That's true, too. It looks like a lot of the things have a little bit of left margin, even. Oh, actually, no. This actually says this resets it to margin left to 0.
I think the container itself gives it that left margin.
Ah, you're right. Same here, Akash 001. Akash 001 has been looking at the media courses. Is it good?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. I think we have prepared.
Awesome. I appreciate
Let me know
it.
if you have another problem.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, sorry. We've been doing a lot of upgrading of our system here, and so a couple of the things are moving in and out. Wires are changing. We had very horrible audio issues last time because there was a frequency issue, and this is all sort of a result of that. Like we've been upgrading kind of because of that. But yeah, we've been upgrading. So we're asymptotically approaching stabilization. Frederick, the teacher, has followed, so thank you very much. And then cousin Carl Duckworth says, thank you guys for all you do. I've been following CS50 for 5 years. I'm loving the Twitch streams. That's awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in for so long.
Twitch streams are awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. OK, so here's what pretext looks like. We won't be really looking at pretext, but just monospaced if you're trying to have JavaScript or whatever in your actual literal page and have it render like source code. You can use a pre-tag. Tables, this is what tables look like. They have, kind of the same as they look in regular HTML, but we're going to look at tables in a little bit. You get a lot of really cool styling for free with the Bootstrap tables. Geeky Chandral, thank you very much for the follow. That was a little bit painful. I said that a little bit poorly. And this is what forms look like. So clearly, these all look a lot nicer. We didn't have a ton of time to dig into forms in my HTML stream just because we ran short on time. But things like text fields, drop downs, checkboxes, radio buttons, text areas with vertical height instead of just horizontal width.
Yeah, and once we get more into the components, we'll see how to make this a little bit more pretty. Because right now, this is still sort of reminiscent of what it looks like in HTML.
Yeah, no, it's definitely still, it needs some work for sure. Clearly, the big thing that I'm noticing is mainly just the font. Because I think even this box here kind of is the same. It might be the same. But yeah, we do get a much more pleasing, more modern look to things for free, which is really great. Kamar Manhedra, thank you very much for the follow. And Juan Modeb, thank you very much for the follow. And Maybell says, thank you everyone for the answers. I did a bit of Flask and thinking about picking up Django. Is it hard? Says the Social Shake. I don't think anything is super hard. I think the hard part is kind of just diving in and just learning things consistently. Most of the frameworks, I would say, at least in my experience, it's pretty easy, but it's really just learning the way they expect you to put things in the right places.
Yeah, and I would say that documentation for a bunch of these tools has just gotten so much better in the past few years that it really isn't that difficult to, Google something and find the documentation for it directly, and not even having to go to Stack Overflow. Because these sites are so good.
But let's not get too crazy now. But yeah, no, I mean, the documentation is great. Like looking at Bootstrap's documentation, we haven't even gotten to the components yet, and we will look at many of the components. But Bootstrap does such a tremendous job. This is such a pivotal aspect, I think, of what makes or breaks a framework or a tool, is having this really nice documentation. But yeah, back to the question that the Soul Shake asked. I don't think it is going to be hard to learn the stuff necessarily, but I think if you're just going to potentially get overwhelmed by how many different things there are, so it's important to, I think, take baby steps and learn the framework bit by bit. I dove into Django many years ago to build a simple application, and I remember there being just lots of sections to learn if you want an encompassing view of the framework. If you want a small sort of subset view of the framework, you can certainly learn separate modules. You don't need to necessarily learn the admin system, for example, to build a simple website or a blog or whatnot, unless your blog has an admin page where you want to edit blogs or whatever. But just learn it piece by piece, build pages. That's where you learn the most, is actually making stuff. That's why I like us implementing things from scratch on stream, because I think we get a chance to learn together and to sort of get feedback from one another.
Yeah, and it's sort of not really helpful to just see a finished product sometimes. Like the error messages that you get are very helpful in sort of getting people started with, okay, I have this big long thing, how do I even interpret this? Yeah,
exactly, agreed. I hate coming necessarily to this with a pre-baked cake, so to speak, just because I feel like the folks watching might not get that same experience. They might not get the debugging experience. I myself learn better when I can do it live and we get feedback back and forth. So I think that's just an important part of it. You're going to have to get your hands dirty, so to speak, and actually make some web pages.
Yeah, and it definitely shows people some good practices for how to go about solving these problems that will definitely come up when you try and build your own.
Yeah. So excellent question. I would say anybody who's wondering and is a little bit afraid, just dive in and just figure it out as you go. You will surprise yourself with how effective I think you end up actually getting.
Yeah, and one sort of strategy that I do when I'm learning a new tool is I just make sure that I just do a little bit and then get it to work.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to write this big long page and then, oh, now I have no idea where the error is.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. How can I get better at JavaScript? I know the basics. Same exact thing, just make more web pages. Look at tutorials. You can go on, there's YouTube videos that you can surely watch that cover all of the syntax. Do exercises. I think Brian plugged Project Euler in another stream, which is just a web page that lets you solve problems. But ultimately, finding a problem that you want to solve in a web page, some sort of dynamism in the world of JavaScript, and actually executing it, that's how you're going to get better at JavaScript. Learning bit by bit, asking questions, working on projects with other people, finishing projects. That's ultimately how the path is. It's not a clean path all the time, and it takes a long time, but you will get there. Whipstick23 says, what I've heard about Django is that it's opinionated. Yeah, this is the kind of common theme amongst all the big frameworks like Django and Rails.
I'd love to see a C++ best practices stream.
JL97. C++ best practices. I am a little out of touch with C++. I programmed in it a lot many years ago. I don't know if I'm equipped to do a best practices stream on it, but maybe we
I
can
am
get
most
someone.
definitely not, but I have used it because it is popular when you're sort of coding for hardware.
Yeah, definitely is. Yeah, we might do something like that, or at least a small stream on it. You can associate different values to the two submit buttons and handle them appropriately at the server side. Oh, Nikhil asked a question. Oh, can you tell me what will happen if we have two submit buttons in a single form? I think when you click one submit button, you'll just trigger the form, right? Both of the buttons will probably trigger the form. I'm not 100% sure because it's a question, or it's a thing that I don't usually worry about. Mm-hmm. But you can program the buttons to have different JavaScript effects, and if you override default or prevent default with JavaScript, which is what prevents it from submitting the form, you can actually make those buttons do client-side behavior or do AJAX requests to your server and basically accomplish whatever you want. So I would say look into prevent default for sort of that behavior.
Should we dive right into those components?
Yeah, let's do that. And then to M4NJWho's point, there is a 30-day challenge by Wes Boss. Heard good things about it. I'm yet to do it. JavaScript30.com. So yeah, check that out. I haven't actually looked at that, but that sounds pretty good. How to optimize, Luigi's asking, how to optimize your Bootstrap work after you've patched up all the pieces you need into your project? Is there a sequence of operations to follow when you debug under Bootstrap? I don't know if there's a specific sort of paradigm for doing it versus any other front-end development.
I will say that Bootstrap is a little bit more mobile-first based. So there are sort of practices that Bootstrap is sort of idealizing when people use it, which is that it is built for mobile, and then here's how you adapt it to web. Yeah,
that's true. And that's actually one of the core sort of tenets of Bootstrap, I think, is that it should work well. Everything should work well on mobile devices. And it's actually completely built around that idea. So we'll actually explore that in a little bit. Can you do a stream on linked lists in C? That is my current hang-up in CS50 on edX. For a data structures stream more generally, that could actually be pretty good. We'll think about that, EO71585. Thank you for the suggestion. We'll take a look at that. Killstealer says, hello from India. I learned C++ years ago. I can't remember anything like data structures and everything. Yeah, I'm the same way, Killstealer. It's something that I think you have to sort of be deep into that ecosystem to really have at the front of your mind. But yeah, anyways, we're getting a little off track. We still have a website to make and some widgets to look at, so we're going to go ahead and take a look back at that. Oh, this is cool. So you can actually use the address element, and you get sort of this default styling for all of the pieces of the address element. This being a semantic HTML element, which we didn't have a tremendous amount of time to look at in our HTML stream, but HTML5 adds a lot of really cool, flexible HTML elements and the ability to even make your own elements with JavaScript. So definitely check that out, and we might do a more advanced HTML CSS stream that covers that.
Yeah, didn't HTML5 also add a video tag, because it previously did not?
Yep. Yeah, it added a lot of those kinds of stuff. It's really cool. Canvases, videos, navs, I think, were in HTML4.
I mean, the workaround before was just add an iframe and
embed the video with an iframe. Yeah, and actually, a lot of services still do that. Like Facebook will give you videos, but they'll be in iframes.
Well, that's because certain browsers don't really handle HTML5 all that well, right?
Yeah. Well, I think and also for security purposes too. I need photo generic memory to be like Mike from Suits, says Killstealer 1080. I haven't watched Suits, but I think that would be pretty helpful in the context of programming for sure.
Or just learning anything.
Rizwan Atta, thank you very much for the follow. So you can see there's block quotes, there's inline elements here, which would be this thing right here, which has the little question mark on it, which you can hover over. Summaries, hidden attributes. These sorts of things are used a lot for forms when you want to submit forms or to have certain verification on your website. But yeah, this is covering, I think, how the default styling is in Bootstrap, the Reboot section. Typography kind of goes into that as well. And again, we shouldn't spend too much time on it, but you can see this is what H tags look like.
So Bootstrap does a weird thing where it has the tag itself and then also the class.
Oh,
right?
yes, it does. And actually, that's what this example is right here, so that you don't have to necessarily use the H tags, but you can still get the same size for the font. And this is important, I think, actually, because Tom Balator was here. He did a stream with us on accessibility. And using certain devices, it'll expect only one H1 tag, for example. It'll look for the H1 tag, it'll parse the page. And if it sees the H1 tag, it'll bring that to the attention of maybe somebody who's blind. And if there are multiple H1 tags, that can cause confusion for some people. This is something that I wasn't familiar with until that stream when he was here, because he's done a lot of in that space. And this lets you get around that idea of there being multiple H1s, because you can just apply this H1 style to a P tag. And now that P tag looks just like an H1, but it's not. The screen reader is not going to look at that and say, oh, that's an H1 tag. Like, you should be focusing your attention on that. So it's nice.
And you could do that sort of without Bootstrap, right? Applying the same styles that you would have to your H1 just to a P tag, but that gets a little messy because you don't want all of your P tags to look like that, so you need to create another class anyway.
Yeah. It's a nice little utility, and you get H1 through H6, which is pretty cool. Here's a display heading, which is pretty cool. Let me see. So it takes in an H3, and then within the H3, you can actually specify, that's what this is here, this faded text. You can say, you can put a small tag in there. Give it the text to muted attribute, which gives it this lighter color. And then you can sort of have this sub H3. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of things like this. This is actually one of my favorites. We'll actually be using this. The display headings for the really powerful big heading that you want, bigger than an H1. You just give it display 1, display 2, display 3, display 4, and actually I think display 4 is even larger than H1 up here. Yeah, it is. Different font too. Notice that has a thinner font weight, which is kind of cool. So it actually, as a stylistic decision, they ended up making it look a little bit different too. GD Harmik says hi, and Hardapraj says hello from India. Hello, Hardapraj and GD Harmik. And also, GD Harmik, thank you very much for the follow. And Rizwan Atta, I apologize if I missed that follow. So here's some leads, which is what this looks like. So just basically a more accentuated paragraph, inline text elements, lots of these sorts of things. You know, we could spend all day probably going through the documentation and looking at all these different things. I think we should probably, for the sake of time, maybe start looking at the more interesting components, because that's, I think, where we can derive a lot more modern look to our web page. You know, we can actually make it look as if it's a web app, not necessarily just a static web page. And to do that, we go down all the way here. And also, well, one thing we should do, because I do want to make a Pokemon sort of like view, like this is our Pokemon list, and we're going to use a table for that. So there's a table section here in the documentation. And if we look, we can see that Bootstrap makes our tables look really nice. So this is way better looking than any of the tables you get by default in HTML.
Yep. If we did the same comparison that we did with the CS50 on Twitch HTML, just without and with Bootstrap, it would be game-changing.
Yeah, I'd actually be curious. We might have time to even do that. So I think I have it here in my, where do we do it? I think it was web HTML, and then it was the index.html. I'm not 100% sure. Let's open it up and confirm. No, it's not. We don't have it still up and running, I don't think, unfortunately. If we did, I would convert it. Unfortunately, we probably don't have time. Where is the in Pokemon? Kaiser Twitch. Pokemon? Is that what it's referring to? Like Pokemon?
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Pokemon. Now I'm going to be self-conscious saying it.
I like the way, excuse me, I like the way you named me. I canceled my trip because of the YouTube live notification. The CCD is teaching BS. Awesome. Well, we're teaching BS. Let's just make it clear.
Let's say Bootstrap.
Definitely Bootstrap. But yes, thank you, Rizwan, for tuning in and, you know, kind of being here instead of going on your trip.
Looks like we got another follow.
We did. Shanky3112. Thank you very much for the follow. I like that name, by the way. We'll definitely give a try to HTML again in my vacation. Seems interesting, says KeelStealer1080. If you want a really fun way to do HTML, do it with Bootstrap, because it all looks really good without, you know, looking like it's from like 1985, right? Yep. Actually, I don't even know if HTML was around in 1985. It probably was. G-Darmic, is there any other technology than Bootstrap?
Yeah, we talked about a few other frameworks at the beginning of the stream, so...
Yeah, there are. You can either go back to the beginning of the stream or look up Foundation and Semantic UI. And there might be other ones. I'm actually not sure.
I think Skeleton is another one
Skeleton?
that people use.
Skeleton CSS. Responsive CSS boilerplate. Yeah, this looks like another framework.
Yeah.
It looks pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. It's got a little grid system, very similar. It's a 12 column, just like Bootstrap is. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, skeleton, semantic UI, foundation, Bootstrap, they're all kind of the same idea. Give me some free CSS that looks good so I don't have to write it myself. What a time to tune in, just talking BS, are we, says Andre? Yeah, you know, this is a typical day in the chat, you know, a typical day on Twitch. There are many, I only remember semantic UI right now. React.js with Bootstrap setup, is that what I have tried so far 10 times. It kills the whole thing like the motivation. Managing JSX code with React Bootstrap. A little stream on that by CS50 I think can help the setup. Yeah, that's interesting. I could see that causing issues. Because you have to have your classes, you have to have the right classes in your React components. I'd have to dive into React a little bit more and then use just that library, I think, to really give a thorough treatment to it and not make a fool of myself, which I arguably do every time I do these streams anyway. But yeah, that's a good idea. We'll take a look at that maybe in the future. And then Luigi, by the way, Andre, Luigi's in the chat, so definitely say hi to Luigi. Oh, he's got that there. Hello, Luigi. Nice to see you in here. Can we move ahead with the Bootstrap, please, says Bavik? Yes. Yes, we should indeed do that. So we have tables here, which are very nicely styled relative to what the HTML tables look like. But what I like is that you can actually dark theme them for free, just by adding this class table dark. And actually, we're going to build up this web page anyway, so I might as well just include it. So I'm going to say table. Class equals table, which I think you need to do by default in order for it to actually register. And then I'm going to go over here,thead, which is the classic, and then tbody. And we did this all on the stream last time. So th will do, how do we want our Pokemon table to look? Because we're going to build this up into our Pokemon table, and then we're going to link to it from another page.
So are we talking columns here?
Yeah, so I guess this will be name. We'll do name.
We'll do name. Maybe type.
Sure, we'll do type. Oh, this will be a great way to use, we'll see this, like badges, colored badges. And then we'll have an image, of course, and then health, because I want to do health and I want to do XP. And actually, we might be able to integrate both of those on top of each other using progress bars. And the Bootstrap progress bars are really cool. We'll see those. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. And then we'll say the first, we'll just do one entry for now. And that'll be, actually, in the chat, what Pokemon is going to be our first Pokemon? This is important. This is very important.
I think we already had our first Pokemon, and that was Charizard. We already had the image.
That's true. That's true. We did do that. We did do that. Somebody says Charmander, too. And someone actually asked a question. 1980 was when HTML was born. OK, TIL. I actually thought it was 1976 or something when ARPANET was pretty early. I thought they had come up with the first spec for HTML. I'm not 100% sure. Material UI, Brandon David was saying, is another framework. Hey, Golden, are you taking up requests of JavaScript? It's about objects, and the problem is that the code is hard to wrap my mind around, says Oshfaq. We're not doing JavaScript today, but we will be doing a JavaScript one in the near future, so we'll take a look at that. Is he missing subclasses for table on purpose, says Indra? Oh, sure, that was a hidden comment. I'm not 100% sure what you mean, but yes, if you're talking about table dark, we haven't necessarily gotten around to that yet. But yes, that is naturally where we're going to be going. So TD, so I saw Charmander. So Charmander will be the name. We'll have the type is going to be fire, and we're actually going to make this a badge. And this is going to look super cool later, but we'll worry about that when we get to it. The image, we're going to worry about that in just a second. The health is going to be, we'll say 30 for now, but we're actually going to make that a progress bar. And the XP is going to be 50, and that is going to be a progress bar as well. And I realize actually they should have a level, so we'll make that. We'll do that as well, and do that. Cool.
Oh.
Wait, everything good?
Should we assign a level, or?
Oh yes, yes. I just wrote level. Whoops. Level 5, because that's when you get it in the game. It starts off as level 5.
Oh, I don't even remember. It's been years since
I
played
yeah.
Pokemon.
Yeah. So this table should, by default now, look OK, right? It looks like this, and it looks pretty good already. Much better than it would have looked if we were to take away the CSS. And we can demonstrate this. If I were to take away these right here and just have my regular table, you can see that it looks pretty terrible. We still are getting the Bootstrap fonts and all that stuff because we're importing Bootstrap. And Bootstrap is sort of overwriting a lot of the default styling. But if we merely comment that out, just like that, and do that, and then refresh the page, we can see it looks pretty crappy. It's the regular Times New Roman or whatever font that is, and not very good styling and spacing and all that stuff. Now I'm going to put Bootstrap back in. I'm going to re-add the table and table dark. And notice that I'm spacing out both of those, because you can actually assign multiple classes to the same element using a space between the classes.
Yeah, I wonder, is there a max for how many classes an element can have?
I don't know if there is, actually. So we can look this up.
You can add a bunch to different elements, but I wonder if at some point that breaks.
So this is the famous Stack Overflow. I don't think there's a limit. A quick Google search yielded this. And so if we go over to here, maximum number of supported classes per element.
32 or something?
Well over 2,000.
Ah.
So if you're using 2,000 classes on a given element, shame on you. But it looks like feasibly there is no real, I guess, realistic limit. There is a technical limit, surely. With anything in computer science, there is a technical limit. But it looks like 2,000 classes, or, well, I mean, it says well over 2,000 classes, so that could be any number, but it's a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just an example of sort of when you would take into account, how can I better design this, right? If at that point, that's just ridiculous to have that long of a name.
That's like an entire web page worth of just classes in the string. So.
The only job says, Aaron Carvalho is such a common name in Brazil.
Nice. Even Aaron, too. That's interesting. Bavig Knight, is Aaron from Brazil? Sorry, I missed earlier parts, joined late.
No, I'm actually from Hawaii, and I am not Brazilian at all.
Interesting. But is Carvalho not Brazilian?
Carvalho
or
is
Portuguese, right.
Yeah.
And then the Portuguese settled in Brazil, and therefore, okay, right, got it.
So, I
what
think there is a model named Aaron Carvalho from Brazil.
Nice.
And that's how that sort of got.
That makes sense. That would make sense. Okay. What if I'm storing my database as CSS classes? Says Kaiser Twitch. I would say I would like to look at that. That'd be very interesting. But also shame on you. All right. So let's go ahead and restore what we had. So refresh. We have a very beautifully centered table. I'm going to shift this over a little bit so you can see it. Very beautifully centered using the column system in Bootstrap. So Bootstrap has a grid system, a column system, where there are 12 columns and things sort of get divided up amongst those 12 columns. And you can use classes to specify how many columns a given element should take up. If you don't specify, it'll just automatically divide it up for you, basically.
And the nice thing about Bootstrap is we're talking about, it's mobile first. You can set different column sizes depending on how big the screen is.
Exactly, yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah. Let's see what this looks like if we just keep resizing it. So you can see that it's actually doing that. It's actually making the columns go from medium to large to larger, depending on how small we've made our web
So
page.
it gives you a lot of responsiveness sort of for free.
Yeah, up to a certain point. It looks like it kind of stops up here, and then it enforces a minimum browser size. But up until that point, you can see that it has breakpoints. These are media query breakpoints, which is done in CSS that tells the browser, tells the HTML elements and the CSS to reorient themselves depending on what the media query returns for the width or height of the web browser. So. Are you guys in CS50 ever going to do a lecture about freelancing? That's something that interests me the most about programming. Actually, I think Nick would be very well equipped to do a stream on that because he does do some freelancing. So the only John, we'll ask him to do a little bit of a stream on that maybe at some point. Saeed055, hello Colin, Aaron, how are you doing? I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah, doing great, just getting on this stream for the first time. So.
Yeah. Shout out to Erin for joining us for the first time on stream. Hopefully, get her to star in her own stream at some point. I mean, I'll be here. I'll be here to help out, to lead a stream. But here's our table. So we have a dark table, the dark theme table. If we wanted to replace that with table light, we can do that like that. And you can see that a table has a default light theme. It looks a little bit different. If I were to write table bordered here and refresh the page, is that the right? Maybe it's just bordered.
Yeah, I think. Go back to the documentation.
Did I screw that up? Yeah, I might need to go back to documentation. First of all, I'm going to go back to table dark and then table bordered. There we go. I think table bordered might have to come after the theme. But you can see, it might be a little bit hard to see, but there's actually a very light sort of
gray.
Yeah, gray border around every single element. So this is cool. This makes it nice and readable. And actually, is it table hover that does it? So you can actually add the table hover element or class to a table row, and that'll let me hover over that and give it a nice little light color, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And if we add a few more Pokemon, which Pokemon,
Now you're just gonna think about it the whole time.
Pokemon. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's actually duplicate this a few times. I'm gonna add 2 more rows. That was terribly centered there. Let's do that, boom, and boom. So I mean, I think if we're gonna do Charmander, we should do Squirtle and Bulbasaur as well, right? And I think these are technically out of order. I think it goes Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander.
I think it's Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander. Yeah, that sounds right. I used to have like a binder of all of the Pokemon cards.
Oh, me too.
And like you had to order them because that was the only way that you could keep them.
Some of those actually fetch a tremendous price at this point, I think.
Yeah, like those shiny Charizards.
I think I saw some of them. One of them was going for like $200 or something, or even maybe more than that.
That's crazy.
I think that was like every kid's dream back in my day, back in your day, because I think we were roughly around the same time when Pokemon was really famous.
Yeah, the card version of it.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
And blue and red and yellow and sort of the Game Boy stuff.
Yeah. Oscar M, thank you very much for the follow, and CK298 as well. And then Oscar M says hello there. So hello, good to have you with us today. So now we have a table without any images, and I thought what would be cool is just to make this look a little bit nicer. There's a web page called Bulbapedia, which I'm a big fan of.
What a great name.
Isn't that great? Oh, this might be the wrong one. Bulbapedia. It's not. I don't think it's bulbapedia.com. So Bulbapedia. Leave. It looks like it's trying to, yeah, bulbapedia.bulbagarden.net. So don't go to bulbapedia.com. It looks like it's a bad website. Go to bulbapedia.bulbagarden.net. And then what we're going to do is I'm actually going to look up all of these Pokemon. So Charmander, for example. If we go all the way down, and so this is a great website, by the way, in the vein of good documentation. This is a very well documented Pokemon website. All the way at the very bottom there, you can get sprite images for all of the Pokemon and all of their games, and some of them are even animated.
Ooh, they're so cute.
Yeah, aren't they adorable? So here, I'm going to get the one from Pokemon Black. So if you click on it here, you'll get taken to the web page, and you can just right-click on the image and do copy image address. And then what I can do now, back in my web page, I can go over to Charmander. In the image section, I can just put an image in there, source equals, and then the link off of Bulbagarden's CDN. Notice that they themselves have a CDN where they keep all of their Pokemon. And it looks like they're numbered by their actual place in the Pokedex, number 4. Wait, that doesn't seem right, actually. It should be 1, 2, 3. That's strange.
Unless it's the Bulbasaur all the way up to Venusaur, and then Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. I wonder if it's...
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur. So that means Squirtle goes 3rd then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I don't know.
It's testing our knowledge.
Yeah, this really is a test. Pikachu should be there. It deserves. We all started from it. What is Pokemon, says Whipstreak23. Ooh. Whipstreak is 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I don't necessarily blame him for not knowing what Pokemon is, unless that was troll.
Is there no, like, modern... Like,
Oh yeah,
there must be new stuff.
Yeah,
out
because
now.
Pokemon Let's Go for the Switch.
Yeah, Pokemon.
Yeah.
Even Pokemon Go.
Even
the
Pokemon
app.
Go, yeah, exactly. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to refresh the page back over here.
Yeah, and Colton's sort of doing what we were talking about earlier when you're trying to learn something new, right? Just putting something in and testing it.
Yeah.
Not adding a whole bunch of stuff. We're kind of going one step at a time.
And we can see that it kind of screwed up our sort of the centering of our elements, though, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah.
The nice thing that we can do, though, is there's a class called MYAuto, I believe, that will let us fix that. If I go over to the actual cell and I do class equals MY, or actually I need to do it on all of these. So if I do that, boom, 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 class equals MY auto, and what this does is it's margin on the y-axis auto, so it'll space everything out automatically. This should work, maybe not. It might need deflex on the table, so let's verify that. Deflex. Nope, that's not it. I did this yesterday. I figured this out because this was a kind of a pain in terms of actually getting it to work. Okay, so these, there might have been one missing class. I don't remember. And this is kind of where you have to use Stack Overflow documentation, read back to the docs, because it's infeasible that you're going to remember every single class, every single thing, especially implementing everything from scratch.
Yep.
So if I do table vertical align Bootstrap 4. Bootstrap 4 specifically because they changed everything. It's no longer it is no longer float aligned. It is Flexbox. Everything is Flexbox. Container deflex. So
like you do need deflex, but maybe
for that's yeah, but not for that wasn't for a table. So for a table, everything is kind of different, unless it's deflex on the container itself, which would kind of make sense, I guess. The table is inside that, but no, that doesn't look like that fixed it. And actually, I think all containers are deflex by no, they're not deflex by default. Something is deflex by default. I'm not really 100% sure. I do remember that all of these do need my auto. If we want this to look nice and vertically centered with the images and the text together, there are other ways to do it too. It might have been tbody. No, ugh, this is horrible. We might skip that part of it and just go with the this for the sake of time, just because I think we might run out of time if we spend too much time on all that stuff. But there is a way to do it. I had it yesterday. I don't remember it offhand. If anybody knows it in the chat, plug it. But what my does, JL97, is it's margin y, but it only works with in certain contexts. Mauto, no, it needs to be my or mx. Mauto will do both axes, which I think might be okay. But let's see. Yeah, they didn't change it in this sense. Geez, what was it? I'm trying to remember. I found it. I'm like, I really want to figure that out, actually. Vertical line in Bootstrap table. This is, it needs to be Bootstrap 4. Align middle. I did it with my though. Align middle doesn't actually work.
into your Google.
Oh right, yeah, into the search, yeah. So table align, table cell my auto. Whoops, Bootstrap.
I love Beyblade more than Pokemon, though.
Oh, interesting.
Beyblade.
I actually haven't. I haven't looked too much at Beyblade.
My brother and I actually used to have Beyblades. They're those little like tops. They're like motorized tops that would like spin, and they had little like blades on them, so they would hit each other and collide different ways.
I remember it was very like popular when I was a kid. Like some of the people in my class would be into Beyblade or whatever, but it felt like it lasted a year, and then everyone went back to Pokemon, and back to Yu-Gi-Oh was also really popular.
Yeah.
Geez, well, why am I struggling to find what this was? This is the flip side of not coming with pre-baked cakes, is you kind of have to figure out things on the fly sometimes.
Yeah, we can't just say, now let's turn to this other cake that I've made in advance.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I think it's because these need to have the class row. That's why. I think I screwed that up.
Oh, interesting.
Let's confirm. And then these all get classes equal to call, I think, as well. Maybe. That might be wrong.
You just wrote row again. Those are all.
Oh, whoops, yeah.
Should be columns.
Live coding. And then these should be my auto.
Let's try that.
And then also call. This might be horrible, by the way. This might actually break it. Yeah, this broke it.
I think call doesn't need to be there because column is for Bootstrap columns, like the 1 through 12.
Yeah. Damn, I'm trying to remember what it was. Literally did this yesterday. Row, row, row. Yeah, that's not it. Oh, but I had the deflex thing up here. Oh, shoot. Okay.
Ind rare Eddie 5 says align middle. Yeah, Colton and I were actually just talking about align middle.
Yeah, so if we do that, so we can actually do that. So if I were to do this and do align middle, and then if I were to come down here So I did this yesterday. This might work if I screwed something up yesterday when I was testing out. By the way, this is a nice feature that I love about VS Code, the ability to have multiple cursors. So now I can do something like that. Oh, I need to do class equals align middle, like that.
And then fix the last one.
Yeah, whoops. And then do that.
And the class equals.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Adam also has something similar with, I believe it's command.
Oh, that did work. Okay,
Oh.
so in my testing yesterday, I must have had something screwed up. Align middle was not working, but now it seems to be working.
Cool. And you
So
probably
awesome.
don't
Thank you,
need that.
Inja for that. That was
Yeah.
a weird. I'm not sure why that wasn't working yesterday when I tried it. Because I was wondering, I was like, people are saying this should be this easy to do it, but it wasn't working. And I was like, okay, this must be some
Google
weird
needs
thing.
to eat almonds to improve memory. Otherwise, Google's our friend.
Yeah, exactly. I probably should start eating some almonds. Anyways,
Now we have a centered row.
I'm very happy. So that actually makes me very happy because yesterday I was trying to do align middle as a test and it wasn't working, and I was racking my brain trying to figure out why, and MY Auto was solving it, and I was like, okay, so, and it was some other person had written about it, and I was like, this can't be this complicated to get vertical alignment in your columns in Bootstrap. Like, this has to be some weird bug, but everything looked like it was in the right place. Dflex is display flex. It's shorthand for that. It's a class in Bootstrap that turns a container into a Flexbox container, essentially. And Flexbox is a CSS3, fairly recent sort of system for aligning boxes flexibly, hence the name Flexbox. It allows you to vertically and horizontally sort of align things in nice rows and columns. That's a pretty nice system. But not everything in Bootstrap is Flex enabled by default, but you can allow for it. Does that feature work in Sublime to write with multiple cursors? It does, I believe. I believe that was the first editor I think I ever used that had multiple cursors.
I would say
actually.
most editors do that now.
Yeah, but I think most of them definitely do now.
Yeah.
Sublime, I think, was at least my first introduction to it, and I was like, oh, this is such a cool feature. I can't believe I've been living my life without this.
Yeah.
I don't think I need these MY autos anymore in here, though. I think we can get rid of
Yeah,
those.
and one of the things I like about Atom is that if you do multiple cursors in Atom, it'll look at the stuff previous to where your cursor is now and like go to the next element. So if you have a whole bunch of tables, you can like select multiple cursors right where all of your tables start. So you can have classes that way.
Yeah, no, it's super great. It's
Yeah.
super awesome. And someone actually asked me to start using Emmet, I think it was, which is the little system for where you can write basically, like if I were to do li.hello times 3, that actually turns into 3 LIs with the class
that's
hello.
Cool.
Yeah, so I don't know who it was that recommended that I start doing that. Whoever it was, I started doing it a little bit last night. So thank you very much, whoever it was that said that or suggested that.
As a Twitch says, that's why I love Atom. I love Atom too. That's what I use.
Yeah, Atom's awesome. So we were gonna get Squirtle and Bulbasaur's pictures actually because we wanted to complete this table.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and get you.
It looks like some of the views are from the battle mode in Pokemon Blue and Red and Yellow,
Yeah.
the classics.
Yeah, those were so amazing when they first came out. I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
those so vividly.
But that was back in the day when screens weren't backlit, so you had to.
Oh, that
get a
was terrible.
flashlight.
Yeah, you need a little clip-on light
Yeah.
to play your Game Boy. Those were the dark ages, literally. Oh, we are so close. Just need Bulbasaur now. And let's go all the way down to the bottom of the page and grab Bulbasaur. Yeah, the Pokemon Black and White sprites are the best, I think, for this use case. Because they're small, but they have the animation. And then just slap a little image in there like that.
And they're GIFs, you said?
These are actually animated pings.
Oh,
I actually didn't realize
yeah.
pings, PNG files could be animated until last night when I was sort of working through this.
Me
but
neither.
yeah, turns out pings can be animated, so it's pretty sick.
Because the common use case for a PNG is just to have that transparent background that you see.
Yeah,
Well, you don't see because it's transparent.
yeah. So this is our table view of our Pokemon, our collection. And if we wanted, we could. Oh, you know what? Somebody did want Pikachu. We got to do Pikachu as well. So one last one. We'll do Pikachu, And then that'll be all we can really see in the view. So let's go ahead and just make sure all of this looks accurate. No, that does not look accurate. Pikachu, level 5, it's going to be electric. It's going to have all the same stats. And then let's go up here, Pikachu. And then grab you from
Or as
here.
one might say, I choose you.
Yeah, I choose you. Well, actually, somebody in the chat chose Pikachu. I forgot who it was. They're way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bavik says TIL about Pngs. Yeah, me too. It's cool. I honestly like it because I don't really like GIFs that much. Like, it's a weird file format. I would much rather use PNG files, animated PNG files, because you don't get that weird compression artifacting as well. But, you know.
Or even
To each their
animated JPEGs would be nice.
Yeah. All right. So now we have a pretty fully fledged little Pokemon. Yeah. We could say this is like maybe my active party, because eventually we do want to have health bars and XP bars. So I think we'll end up actually doing that and resizing the table as needed. But one of the first things I think we should do is to start maybe looking at some of the components, actually diving back into Bootstrap. Now that we've used the table, we've made it look okay, dive back into the Bootstrap docs, look at some components, figure out what we can take and put into our page here, and then come back here and finish it up. The only problem with animated PNGs is a lot of programs that render images don't support it, like Discord. Oh shoot, that sucks. Yeah, Discord. I love Discord. I'm surprised they don't support it though, to be honest, because Discord is such a nice app.
Does it support GIFs even?
It does support GIFs, okay. I think, yeah. Fascinating. Flexbox comes built in with React.js. I used it while messing with React Bootstrap. Okay, interesting. Yeah. How about using IntelliJ IDEA products like WebStorm for this? Actually being a native mobile app developer, so you know IDEs run in blood, just asking. Yeah, I don't know. I'm personally not a fan of using web IDEs, but I could see them being pretty useful. I'd have to mess with it a little bit more. I downloaded WebStorm one time a long time ago and tinkered with it, but didn't really spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest sort of qualm with IDEs is just that they're so heavy. It's a lot of clunkiness that you don't necessarily always need.
Yeah, I always found myself gravitating towards CLI development, even when I was doing Java stuff and using like NetBeans or IntelliJ. I would end up actually I would figure out what it was automating and then go into like VS Code or Atom or whatever, and then just use that with my command prompt and only do all the stuff at the command line. And I ended up finding that it was a more pleasurable environment for me. I think I've grown used to that as opposed to an IDE, but I used IDEs for years. So I totally understand if somebody wants to use an IDE, and they're great for like debugging and code completion and profiling and all those sorts of things. So it depends on your use case. What's Colton's Discord ID? I'm Whipstreak233701. I don't remember. It's Coltonoscopy, but I forget the number.
Oh yeah, because they
offhand.
have like tag numbers, right?
Yeah, I could tell you right now. Everybody feel free to add me on Discord.
What do you typically use your Discord for?
I chat and play games. Right now I'm playing a little bit of Minecraft. Let me see. My Discord handle is Coltonoscopy9517. So light me up. Know what your tools do, JL97. Agreed, agreed. GIFs have been animated forever. Pngs are lossless, JPEGs are lossy, correct. Discord plays it the first time it's loaded, but then the second time it only displays the first frame. I think it's something with the way they store them or send them to the client.
There are some services that do that with GIFs to an extent. They'll play it once and then just show you the first frame. So I'm not sure exactly how you...
Yeah, I guess it's up to the renderer embedded within the application. It'll have some buggy code or whatever. So the chat just disappeared because we bound C to the chat macro, but that's okay.
Is that even how you spell Coltonoscopy?
It is, yeah. Number 9517.
9517.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, back to the main screen. So there we go.
Oh, it's because I hit 1.
Yeah. All is good. So yeah, feel free. If you want to play something or whatever. I don't play a lot of different things at the moment, but you know, we do stuff. Okay, cool. So back to Bootstrap, we covered tables. We looked at table dark, which is, we looked at actually table. You can actually specify the table header, make it a little bit different if we wanted to. Which is the difference? I just got a friend request, so that's awesome. Striped rows. Oh, that was another thing I wanted to do. You can actually say table striped. So if I were to go over here,
And now you can see why 2,000 classes is maybe
Maybe it
not
is.
that
Maybe it is
unreasonable.
feasible. So now I did table striped. Oh, got another friend request. So here we go. We have not only the tables are striped now to make them a little bit easier to read, but I can hover over them and actually still get a different color even over the striped rows, which is cool. So it looks very great.
I mean, to some people that might sort of be a design decision, right? Because maybe it is a little confusing when you're hovering over a dark row and it's next to light rows, so it's harder to see.
Agreed, 100%. It is definitely a design decision, an aesthetic decision. You might think that it looks better without stripes. I might think that it looks better with stripes, and that's, somebody's got to make that decision at some point. It's not necessarily an objectively good thing.
Yeah.
But I personally like it. I don't know how you feel about it, but
I like it with the light theme, not sold on dark yet.
well, it's objectively good with the dark theme. So you're gonna. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Actually, we should see what it looks like with the light theme. Table light. And the nice thing is, I get all that other functionality. All I have to do is just change the light to dark back and forth, and they're both interchangeable. They both look nice right off the gate, right? So now we have the dark, we have the striped look and the hover effects, but the everything is light altogether. But I honestly like the dark thing a little better. So I'm going.
Colton's more of a dark side kind of guy.
I am. I honestly am. Run it in dark mode. Colton should join the CS50 Discord server. Actually, that's a good point. I probably should do that. I have not
I didn't know
thought.
CS50 had a Discord.
We do, and I forgot to join it. I planned to do it a long time ago, and I just never did. Yeah. So table striped, which is pretty cool. It even shows you what it looks like with the dark mode, which is pretty cool. Bordered, you can add, which we did. Hoverable rows, which we did. Table hover. Pretty cool. Clearly, this is all still in my memory from last night as I was putting this together. You can compress the table, which is interesting. Although this won't work terribly well with the images that we've imported.
Yep.
But if you're looking for a very simple condensed table without all the padding, basically, then you can definitely do that. I've gotten so many friend requests over here on Discord.
Light screen are a pain in the ass. Yes, I agree. Okay, my Atom is in dark mode, and my CS50 IDE is in dark mode. I agree completely.
Yeah, nobody wants to code in a light themed editor. I mean, come on. We can clip that.
Yes.
Let's clip that.
I'm just saying that preferably some web pages look better with the light.
we can objectively maybe say.
Come to the dark side.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Cool. Okay, so we have our table, right? The table section, we haven't even gotten into the component section. This is just like kind of one of the things you get with importing the library without even using, the new stuff that you get. But you can actually get a lot of new stuff. And if we look here, if you click on the component section of the documentation, we go way down here and we cover a whole bunch of different cool components that you get for free that you just get to add into your page. Now you have to use HTML tags with specific styles, specific classes to achieve this. You don't get like new tags that allow you to do this.
Yeah.
But it effectively accomplishes the same thing.
And some of them require certain like nesting patterns.
Yes.
Like we saw with table, like you have different classes are associated with like rows or data items in the table. So you have to be careful on where you can apply a certain class.
Yeah, 100%. Down with the white mode and up with the dark.
I'm clearly getting overruled here.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so we'll just kind of go through some of these at a high level, and then we'll import a few of these modules into our table just to demonstrate how they might be used in this context. But we can see here, these are alerts, so these are pretty cool. Alerts are sort of like flash messages. You could imagine you have a website where the user doesn't log in correctly, or maybe they enter wrong information or correct information, and they should be given a flash message like this with an alert that just has a red background or a yellow background or a green background to signify, success, failure, warning, etc.
Yeah, and if you use the CS50 IDE, it sort of mimics that message at the top. If you need to update, it says, hey, did you make sure you type in update 50 in the terminal because your workspace is out of date.
Yeah, exactly. We can see here that we have all these divs, and just by giving it the class alert, it becomes an alert. And then the specific color, you can say alert light, dark, info, warning, danger, and it maps to all of these in order, right? So this HTML here is the exact same thing as this, just written out for you. So you can pick and choose, and this is the sort of buffet, pick and choose the items you want. This is the way Bootstrap has laid out their website so that you can do this sort of thing. Now this These alerts I don't think we'll actually need to use in this particular example, but it's something that we could use if we wanted to. In links, you can actually give links a specific color and a bold font if they're in the context of an alert, which is pretty handy. If you want an alert to have maybe a large heading, you can give a class alert heading to a h4 or something within an alert, and that gives it the same styling as everything else. Notice that it gets the green colorization along with the paragraph text. And you can also add an HR. That HR also gets the green styling if it's within an alert class.
So is that HR sort of referring to that line that separates the two?
Exactly, this horizontal rule, as it's called, which allows you to separate things. And there's a lot of stuff you can do with JavaScript to toggle on and off the alerts depending on certain criteria. If you want maybe a front-end client-side validation page, you can do that with JavaScript. Now, we're not covering JavaScript today. We'll do that in another stream. But the nice thing about Bootstrap is it lays all of the JavaScript and CSS stuff all together for you. So
and it's very upfront about what you need JavaScript for. So right here it's telling us, hey, if you want to implement these certain features, you're going to need the JavaScript.
Yeah, it tells you. Enable dismissal of an alert via JavaScript, and it literally just gives you the JavaScript there. And to my knowledge, Bootstrap actually comes with jQuery. So if you import the JavaScript from Bootstrap, you get access to this $sign. This $sign is shorthand for the jQuery function, which we'll cover in another stream as well. Try Material UI theme plugin for more cute themes in the editors, though. Interesting. I've heard that. I'm not 100% sure what that is. And somebody wants the high contrast, dark, deep ocean as well. I don't do a lot of exploration of themes. I know I used to be kind of
really
interested in that. But yeah, I typically tend to stick with that.
I have to stare at a screen for hours. I just want to like the colors.
I'm a big fan of VS Codes, but actually I think this one is the native one. And I think I have a different one in my other installation actually. So I don't actually really like this one because of it has like too much brown text for my liking. I forget what the other color is that I use.
I'm a huge fan of Monakai.
Yeah, Monakai is good. That's like the default one for like Sublime text, which is pretty good. I don't remember what the VS Code one is that I had in the other one. But anyway, unimportant. So over to badges. And actually, badges are pretty cool. Badges allow you, and you might have seen this in certain contexts, maybe on an email client, or maybe if you're looking at how many messages you might have in Facebook or something, it has the number of messages on the right, for example, of someone's name. Like this is where you would see a badge being used to good effect. And clearly it works resizably depending on what heading it's embedded in, because it's actually embedded within a heading. You can see here you use a span, which is an inline element, remember, and you give it the class badge, and then you can give it the class badge secondary, and depending on which H1 or H2 or H3 it's actually embedded inside of, and I don't know if this applies to the classes themselves, the H1, H2, H3 classes. I'm not sure if it'll actually factor that in. That'd be pretty cool if it did.
Yeah.
But depending on which H1, H2, H3 you have it inside of, it'll resize the badge accordingly. So you don't have to worry too much about that.
That's nice.
You can see here's an example of where you might see it in a notifications page, a notifications panel or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And that looks like it's a badge within a button.
Yeah, yep. In this case, it's just embedded within a button. And actually, this one demonstrates that you can have light badges in addition to dark badges, which are the default styling for badges.
Oh, the default is dark.
Yeah, in this case, as it should be.
Just getting trolled so hard.
No, but this is a cool thing. And actually, this is what I thought would be really cool to have as the type for the Pokemon.
Yeah.
You can have a colored badge of different varieties. And really, what they are semantic badges. So primary, secondary, success, danger, warning. But we can use those in a sort of new, different way, right? We can say maybe I want primary to actually be water, and I want warning to be electric, I want danger to be fire, I want success to be grass, right?
Yep.
So I can do that. I can literally, I think, copy this. For example, primary, we'll make that water. If I were to go over into where Squirtle's thing is, over here, this right here, where it just says water, and I do that. So now I have badge primary. I'm just going to write water in there, save it. Fingers crossed that this works the way that I want it to, because I didn't actually test it, but it does indeed work. And look at how nice that is. It just works really well.
It seems to be a little bit smaller text-wise than the other.
A little bit smaller, yeah. And we actually might be able to get around that if we were to, for example, embed that within an H3. If I'm getting this correct, and if to say badge secondary, we'll see if this works. Span.
I think secondary is going to change the color.
Oh, you know what? You're right. You're right. Sorry. Badge primary. And so there we go. So we have a nice large little icon to sort of say, oh, this is a water Pokemon. Much better than text.
Yeah,
much more
for sure.
visually pleasing, at least to me.
I can agree with that.
I appreciate it. You can double click a word to select it quickly, says Kaiser Twitch. Oh, yeah, of course. The fonts with differentiate more clearly are my favorite. I'm not entirely sure what you mean, Bavik, if you could elaborate on that.
Probably just syntax highlighting.
And you got a +1 on Monakai.
Yeah, so I got 2.
Rizwan Atta. Oh, I haven't been keeping up with subscribers, but Hanan Assam and 2 Farno, thank you very much for the follows. So we have the water badge in there, and that's appropriate because in Pokemon you get badges from the gyms. So we have our water badge for Squirtle, so to speak. Not the same meaning at all, but I'm going to go ahead and copy this H3, which we just arbitrarily sort of chose. And I'm going to put this here. Now, the green one was success. Awesome. Okay, so this I just need to change to success.
Yeah, one sort of thing that I have with Bootstrap is I wish that they would have just named it by color instead of semantically.
Yeah. I think I can agree with that, especially in this context where we're using them in a very non-standard way. Totally makes sense to me.
I think sometimes it's just hard to guess what they like. I mean, primary and secondary are just I believe they're blue and gray?
I think gray.
Yeah. But they kind of made an arbitrary choice to say, hey, success is going to be green.
Yeah. Which I think usually semantically
Yeah,
it is.
it is.
But when you're using it for something like this, where you're not in the domain of success, failure, warning, you're in the domain of types. You want to use it for a completely different use case.
Yeah.
It's different. But look at how nice that looks, right? We made a simple change, right? Just name it with colors, says Beast Chris. Materialized CSS does that. It's pretty nice. Interesting. I'll have to take a look at that. Clear visual difference between similar looking character. Oh, I see. Oh, like the 0 and O, I and maybe the pipe symbol, if that is, or L and capital I. No items, says Mabel 2006. No items yet. Maybe for a future app. Maybe we'll build like a full Pokemon inventory or something as a fun web app. This is purely just like this is my party, I guess, right? But yeah, these are badges. So we've gone, we've leveled up our table, I guess, if we want to stick with the theme of Pokemon. And sort of one of the next few things I want to do is get into actual progress bars too. So we'll take a look at that. Grass twice. Oh, whoops, yep. Pikachu is not grass type. Pikachu is, in fact, electric type. So thank you for Knitman and Poorly Defined Behavior for pointing that out. Let's refresh that, and boom, it works beautifully.
Nice.
Looks so nice. This looks so satisfying. Awesome. So those are badges. They can be used for a lot of things, clearly. They can be used for notifications. They can be used for Pokemon types, if you're so inclined. You can even use pill badges, actually. And actually, that's kind of nice. I might do that. So we'll add the badge
you can
pill.
use that, multiple cursors.
Multiple cursors, get fancy with it. Badge pill, like that. And then refresh. And now...
Gives it those nice rounded edges.
Got some rounded edges, right? Pikachu. Oh, Pikachu is wrong? What is Pikachu? What did I do with Pikachu? Oh, they're saying Pikachu was wrong with, before I changed it to electric. I think that's what they're referring to. And you could even do multiple types here if we wanted to. We could have two spans, 2 badges, because spans are inline elements. So we could have one after the other, and one could be grass, electric, or water, rock, or whatever. So this is clearly something that we could mess around with and get different behavior with. Electric types are prone to grass/rock.
Really digging into our Pokemon knowledge.
I know, right? Electric types are weak against ground and
strong against water.
Strong against water. They are weak against grass, which is interesting. But I don't think they are weak. I don't think they take extra damage from grass. They just do less damage to grass. And they do attack. They can attack rock Pokemon, which is weird. I'd always thought that rock was immune to electric, but actually it's ground that's immune to electric. Ground does super effective damage against electric. And correct me if I'm wrong on this. I've looked at this fairly recently, and I'm like 95% sure I'm right on all of this. I'm not a Pokemon expert per se, but I'm not a Bootstrap expert either. So the theme is I'm not an expert at anything, but I think 95% certainty that those type alignments.
JL97 says, this looks super cool. I'm going to have to steal the design.
Oh, feel free. This is just literally taking simple Bootstrap components and then tweaking them, making nice looking stuff. This is an evolution of the table idea that we had in the HTML stream, right? Which was a fun little stream, and we covered some cool stuff. But Kaiser Switch is saying that they got a message blocked. Interesting. Oh, because he put angle brackets. Yeah.
Oh, weird.
I could make a component. I would only have to type electric, grass, fire, water instead of all that. Yeah, no, that's the idea, Kaiser, behind using something like React or Vue, is being able to modularize your components and semantically identify them using electric, grass, fire, water, instead of having to say classes, water, color equals, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You define it, and then you can just think. It's really like having a domain-specific language for your front-end application. And that's kind of
if we're
really
going
cool.
to build this out more, we might even define these classes ourselves, sort of using some Bootstrap stuff and some built-in CSS stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We could definitely do that. Fairy types, dark types, light types. Yeah, no, there's all the. I actually don't know much about fairy types because that's in the newer Pokemon. That's in, I think.
No way, Jigglypuff, or wasn't Jigglypuff?
Well, fairy type was introduced in XY,
Oh, interesting.
which
I thought
Jigglypuff did become fairy type, I believe. But prior to that, fairy type didn't exist.
It was like plain or like
Yeah, normal.
normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
was.
I don't know anything about fairy type. I know a little bit about dark type, I think. Actually, I take that back. I know that there's some relation with psychic, but I don't know whether it's dark is weak against psychic or vice versa. So, and light type, I'm not sure if there is a light type.
That's like Dragonair, Dragonite.
Those are
right?
dragon type.
Why are there so?
Yeah, I don't think there is a light type. I mean, unless they added that also with fairy type, maybe they did. I need to get up to speed with Pokemon like past XY because I am not for sure.
Maybe had more types that evolved into different types. Electric,
It did.
water. Yeah. It depended. Well, in the game, at least, you had to like get a certain stone, and like that was how you could evolve it into
Yeah.
different things.
So it's cool. We could actually make badges links as well. So if we wanted to link to all the Pokemon maybe in our Pokedex that were water type or grass type or whatever, we could do that using the link feature. So that's pretty cool. Breadcrumbs. So a lot of these things we're not going to be taking a tremendous look over because we're not actually going to be using breadcrumbs. But all a breadcrumb is basically a way for you to sort of keep track of where you are in an application, a set of paths, a set of links. And this is actually used on like our CDN. I think we have a CDN display, cdn.cs50.net. We have a breadcrumb feature here, and actually David kindly put in a search feature right here, which is pretty cool. But you notice that if we go to 2007, we do have these separate breadcrumbs here. And these are what breadcrumbs are. They allow you to go from base paths to more refined paths, down deeper into the tree, so to speak.
Yeah, a la Hansel and Gretel style, leaving breadcrumbs to find your way through a path.
Exactly, exactly. So you can navigate backwards in a web app or some application depending on what you need to do. We're not going to use it in today's example, but could be very useful depending on what you're trying to achieve. As I said, we used it for our CDN. Buttons. Buttons are important, I would say. Not that we're necessarily in dire need of buttons today, but you can see that there is a very common theme in Bootstrap, and that's this sort of color system that they have here with all these buttons. And you can override these colors. We might see it in the documentation here in a little bit. You can say style equals background color, blah, 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 and that will actually change the background color of the button. But these buttons are nice. They have an on-hover animation, which you can see. They have the same semantics as the pills that we saw before.
The badges.
Primary, secondary, success, danger, warning, info, light, and dark. And those are all pretty common throughout the Bootstrap documentation. And all you need to do is just add the button class as the base class to get the base styling, and then the specific color that you want with button primary, button secondary, button success, etc. And even a link too. You can have a button that that has no background. That just is a link with the button link capability.
We were actually just talking about success or submit buttons earlier.
We were, yeah, which has actually submits a form, and you can prevent it from submitting the form using prevent default in JavaScript, which is a little bit beyond the scope of today's thing. But these are actually really cool too. I like these outline buttons.
I do too. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, they have an on-hover colored animation, so they turn essentially into the other button type, the regular button if you hover over it. Primary, secondary, success, danger, warning, and actually the yellow text turns all these different texts turn into a different
White.
color as well. Yeah, these all turn into white. This turns into black just because white on yellow is hard to read. Same for these two. These turn into dark, turn into light, and this turns into dark because it's light background. But super cool. So depending on what you're trying to go for aesthetically, you can go for either outline or filled buttons. You can do large buttons, just add button large as the class. You can do small buttons, add this button small. So it's a very flexible framework. Allows you a tremendous amount of things. Block level buttons, if you want to span the entire container, you can do that as well. You can set the state. You can set the disabled state. What else can you do? You can do a lot of stuff. You can toggle buttons with JavaScript, so it has this outline around it, which is pretty cool. You can do check buttons, which is pretty cool. You can have a button group, which we'll look at pretty soon here, which allows you to disable or enable certain sub-buttons of a set of buttons. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, all very customizable. But we're not going to, I don't think we have really a use for buttons in today's example. Scientist and Aranurken, how do you pronounce that? Orion Urken. Thank you very much for the follow, both of you. Yeah, we don't have a use for the buttons, I would say, today. But if we wanted to create another page that was maybe register a Pokemon, for example, in a form, we could override the styling of the default button and do it that way. We could use include our button or include a fancy JavaScript button in that sort of paradigm.
Or we might use those button groups to sort of select a type even.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, we do choose a random Pokemon, right? And then we could like grab a button that does that. Scientist says, greetings. Thanks, Scientist, for the follow and for tuning in. So button groups, which we just looked at, are just as they sound, just a set of buttons that go together, right? And this is actually the example from the last page, the left, middle, and the right.
They just remove the white space between them.
Yeah.
So you could definitely add them separately. But
yeah, and you can even do that too. You could have separate button groups that are all inline. So you have a group of 4 buttons, then a group of 3 buttons. And you could maybe visualize this being in the context of like a Photoshop kind of app or a maybe like Google Spreadsheet, for example, where you have like different styling that you want your text to be, like text align left, middle, and right, and those would go into like this group of 3 buttons.
I could even see it being used in like a feedback setting. So maybe like 1 through 4 is like I'm confused, 5 through 7 is I am okay, and 8's like I felt really confident about that.
Yeah, you could rate your comfort level.
Yeah, and sort of color code them accordingly.
Yeah, and it's semantically even partitioned, where 8 is like I'm 100% good, I'm pretty good, and I could use a little bit more. Yeah. So this is pretty cool. You can mix different input groups with button groups, inline, and also floated left and right, which is pretty cool. You have different sizing, nesting. This is pretty cool. You have a drop down within a button group. So this is pretty cool. This is the way that you can sort of modularize your setup, right? You can compartmentalize and modularize all your button groups and basically everything in Bootstrap. I mean, you could put whatever you want into any of these.
Yeah, and we'll see some of this too when we look at the nav bar component.
Yeah. And here's some vertical buttons with drop downs. The nice thing about Bootstrap is just such a great job of illustrating everything for you visually and interactively so that you can see sort of like, oh, I would really love this, like we just did with our pills, right? We looked at the pills, we changed the styling of them. We looked at buttons, we could have just easily done it with that as well. It's pretty cool. This is so cool, says Bavik Knight. We can override with CSS classes, I guess. Of course, absolutely. You could very easily change the color. And I think I could even do it in here. If I were to go style equals background color, and if I did like, and which type is this? Fire. Orange. And if I did orange, instead, right? And if I refresh the page, notice that fire now has an orange background color instead of red. So you have absolute control over how you want to set your colors of anything that has a default color, whether it's primary or whatever, easy to override.
I also love how it shows a little sample of what that color will look like in
Does it do that in Atom?
I think it will do it for hex colors, but not for like word colors, which is weird.
I'm sure there's probably a plugin that'll do it too.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Very flexible format. Anything that you write yourself, especially at the element level, that's got like the highest priority for CSS, so that'll overwrite everything. Whipstreak, I need to start using Bootstrap more. Absolutely, no, it's a great framework. And I mean, this isn't to say that Bootstrap is the best framework. Like we said earlier, we showed Semantic UI and Foundation and Skeleton and all these other frameworks. Like, I would recommend, and this is something that I need to do myself, go out and explore all these frameworks, use them in different projects, see which ones that fit sort of the way that you think about your components and that you like to develop, and then use that. don't necessarily adhere to one framework specifically. I would say there's maybe an argument to be made for efficiency. Maybe you'll get really good at Bootstrap if you do just Bootstrap. But I mean, honestly, I'm probably more, I think, attracted to Semantic UI right now. I really like how Semantic UI looks. But Bootstrap is just so ubiquitous too that like being really good at Bootstrap probably means that you have a lot of utility.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about Bootstrap is that they use consistent terminology between all of their components.
Yeah.
So primary always means blue.
Yeah.
So if you want something to be blue, you can just say, oh yeah, I remember that's primary. I can most likely just add a class that's like something dash primary.
Yeah. Is Bootstrap used in production level websites? Bootstrap was created by Twitter for use in Twitter.
Really?
Yeah, Twitter created Bootstrap. It used to be called Twitter Bootstrap.
I
Actually, it used to be
did not know
called Twitter something else. And then they changed it to Twitter Bootstrap.
And now they're just Bootstrap.
Yeah, and now it's just Bootstrap. Bootstrap 4. And to this day, I'm not 100% sure. I would imagine they still use Bootstrap.
It's actually pretty easy to recognize if a website is using Bootstrap or not. There's some certain features that you'll pick up on as you use it more, but it's pretty noticeable.
To Elliot Kahn's point, many websites do override the styling so it doesn't look like the Bootstrap theme, which is, I think, a good move if you want your website to not look like you just started learning how to use Bootstrap. But I would say it provides an excellent foundation upon which you can do your own styling and customization. Like we just did, where we changed the fire badge, for example.
Rizwan says, adding a delete button on the right in another column for each data row.
Nice, yeah, and I think he might be doing that himself as an exercise. It's something you could totally do. You could use a trash can icon even to do that, which would be totally great. On the far right here, after XP, delete, or release in Pokemon, you release your Pokemon. We don't want to think about deleting our Pokemon.
I think there's also, I think it's in alerts, there's like a class that you can add that little X.
Oh yeah, to
close,
yeah, and that's I think a JavaScript thing too. You need JavaScript to do that. It's in what is that? It's in.
I think I've seen it in alerts.
It's in utilities.
Okay.
It's close icon. This thing, right?
Yep.
Which allows you to close pretty much anything. It's pretty cool, and you can add that to any Bootstrap component, and that'll just close it. I believe. But I think you do need
to include that JavaScript.
Well, actually, in this case, maybe not, because it's just saying close icon. This might be just the close icon. So you might be referring to like the modal.
To give it like some functionality.
Yeah, because I think to actually get it to work, I think you might have to tie it into the modal, like this, and then because then you can click it and have it go. Well, in this case, it's not going away, but I'm pretty sure one of these examples lets it go away. One of these is live, and you can actually close it. Where is it? That's not it. One of these has an alert box that you can close with this, but yeah, that's that idea. You would, and I mean, if it doesn't have this built in, you could certainly use JavaScript to do it, to delete the row and to animate it up with jQuery or whatever, and we could maybe cover something like that in the future. Whipstreak has a interesting message there, kind of like, oh yeah, the usual in admin dashboards and those kinds of websites. Yeah, exactly. Sujay0399 says hello. Hello, Sujay. Thank you for joining us. Okay. So we were just looking at button groups, right?
Yep.
So if we go down to cards, actually cards are really cool. So this is what a card is.
I love cards.
Yeah, cards are awesome. I mean, it's a simple thing, really. You have an image and you have a container with a header, some text, and a button, right?
Yep. It doesn't even need to be those components. This is just like a sample that Bootstrap chose to show that you can have multiple things within a card.
Yeah.
But you could certainly have multiple texts, multiple buttons, multiple images. Whatever you could see being in a card. We could actually implement this same project as cards, like physical Pokemon cards.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Actually, at some point, I really want to do that.
Yeah.
Fun fact, the cs50.harvard.edu website, if you go to staff, these are all cards, Bootstrap cards. And these are all and there's a special someone right here who might look familiar. But these are all Bootstrap cards, and they are all dynamically adjustable. Well, not when there's, you have to let go of the browser first. But this is using what's called Masonry.js, which is a JavaScript library that auto fills a grid of stuff, whatever you want. In this case, it's a grid of cards. So in this case, we're actually used two technologies in conjunction, Masonry.js and Bootstrap, to create a custom sort of system, which is pretty cool.
Because sometimes Bootstrap.js doesn't have all of the features. In fact, most times it won't, so you'll have to sort of add some things to it to get your desired.
One thing that I realized would be pretty cool is a like a button here where we could like drag in the website here so that this whole thing could fill out and we could just have icons on the left.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be really sick. but that would be somewhat, it might not be that hard to implement actually, because we would just need to make sure the Jekyll output the right HTML with the Bootstrap stuff. So yeah, it's doable, but
It's
it
a
would
lot
be
of technologies. Once you sort of get to that point where you're pushing stuff to production, it's usually you're using what, 3 or 4 frameworks.
yeah, yeah, 3 or 4, maybe more. And bits and pieces, really, of the things that you want. And then Bavik Knight says, Colton is missing. I didn't show up for that day to take my photo, so I am missing.
Oh, no.
I forgot to do that. Shame on me that time. I've been saying shame on you this whole time, but it's actually shame on me this time.
Elfie didn't take one either, so.
Shame on Elfie.
Shame on Elfie.
Shame on you for not letting Elfie take a picture. Sahil XP says hello. Hello, Sahil. Thank you very much for joining us. If I have a list of elements and I want to transform one of those elements' IDs into a button for a user to click, how would this be done? One of those elements' ID into a button, you'd probably need JavaScript for that. You'd have to take the, you have to grab that element from the DOM and then dynamically change it from, using jQuery, I think there's a method to do this, whatever it is already. I'm not sure what your list is, so an LI, I guess, but whatever its subcontent is, whether that's a P or a span, just change that to a button, which should work in jQuery.
Yep.
You can just fetch its ID using $sign and then the ID with the hash symbol.
Get element by ID.
Yeah, if you don't have jQuery, you can use get element by ID, which I wasn't there for the photo shoot. But yeah, these are cards. Cards are really cool. Maybe we should come back to this for a Pokemon, a separate, more interesting Pokemon. You know what would be cool? A Pokemon trading card game with Socket.io. How about that? That would be sick.
Cool.
That would be sick. With a database. Hey, there's a full stack idea for an application. Our own faux database.
Yep.
We could trade CS50 staff.
Oh yeah, gotta catch them all.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Whipstreak says, I think I can do finance now. That's awesome. Should have been there for the animated pink shoes. This guy's on Twitch. Yeah, I probably should have. But yeah, there's to Aaron's point, there's a lot you can do with cards. They're very flexible. See, in this case, this one has a hood, header and a footer with the sort of the same content we saw earlier, all center aligned. We have 2 cards side by side. We have 2 cards touching each other. They're different sizes, but they're sort of stacked.
Yep.
Yeah, custom CSS, all pretty cool. Right aligned, middle aligned, left aligned. Even one with tabs inside of it. So you can get really sort of modular with this and really like add things together in a lot of cool ways.
It's a lot of, you can do a lot of stacking for sure of all the different features. And one of my favorite things is sort of combining the cards with the carousel, which we might look at later.
Oh yeah. Well, carousel is actually next. So this, and we're not covering JavaScript, so we probably won't actually look at the carousel too much. But we have a first slide here. Does it actually work, by the way? Is it live?
Oh,
okay. So in this case, this is a carousel that we can look at that's actually live. So the carousel is just where you put a bunch of images together, essentially, or whatever content you want.
Yeah, you could do it with cards, you could do it with text, you could do it with nearly anything.
And you just scroll things left to right and change their visibility. It's effectively how the CSS is working to give you this sort of carousel effect. And it loops back around. So once we go first, second, third, and third being our last slide, if we do it one more time, it goes to the first slide. So we end up looping back, just like a carousel.
The implementation here is adding the class active to whatever you want it to be start, and then it'll just loop from active.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty cool. And there's even an indicator thing you can add to it, which is pretty sweet. Captions you can add to it. As you can see, you could explore Bootstrap for hours and hours and hours, which we're already in the process of doing. But there's just so much cool stuff you can do. Collapse. This is a JavaScript thing, I think, where you can basically just enable content to display with the click of a button, which is pretty cool. Again, not something that we have the power and the time to do today because we're not doing JavaScript, but there's a lot of cool stuff.
I wonder if you could probably implement that without using JavaScript.
This?
Yeah. Could you just like assign it a class like hidden on button click?
But the animation itself.
Oh, the animation, sure.
Yeah.
The
functionality. You could hide it, yeah. Well, on button click though. Yeah, because on button click is when you're assigning the class, and I think you need JavaScript for that, yeah. But yeah, so much you can do. And here, actually, this is cool. You have an accordion. You can actually have these 3 elements that are, one of them is visible at a time, right? And you can actually collapse you can collapse all of them if you want to. But only one of them will only be visible. So it's like just
I wouldn't say that's a true accordion, because accordions, you could open all of them.
Yeah. Accordion-like-ish. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's what the ID is, right?
Yeah. And this is cool because we have an ID, accordion, class card. This is sort of the way that you create any component in Bootstrap, generally speaking, is you apply it to a div. You apply a class or an ID to a div, and that'll accomplish that. It's pretty cool. There's some accessibility information. We don't have time to read all this stuff. There's so much of it. But drop-downs are cool.
Yep, we took a little look at those.
So here we have a panel sort of appearing dynamically when we click a button with some new elements that are now visible that we can highlight, which may reveal more things. They might take us to another page. It's all pretty awesome, pretty flexible. Same thing here. We have, just as we said before, the styling of Bootstrap. As typical, we have primary, secondary, success, themed drop-downs.
So it's all pretty intuitive, so long as you kind of learn it the first time. You can apply it certainly to other things that Bootstrap gives you.
Yeah. Some folks might have seen that there are some buttons with just the drop-downs with just the button on the right side, which is a split drop-down, which we have that capability to do here. So if you're looking for that, there's all of the sort of copy and paste code that you might want right here. Super easy, which is amazing. You can size it. All of this stuff is pretty. There's definitely patterns. You see some funny stuff.
Yeah.
I like the errand move on the CS50 site. Sad that you did not do it here on the stream. Can you do it on the stream?
Yeah.
What is it? Oh, the nice. We got it live here. That was actually almost like verbatim what you did in the actual image.
It's my go-to for all my Snapchats.
It's like you practice that at night or something.
Oh, definitely.
Like every night. Yeah. Some of the websites I've been working on ready to look nice now. Yes, Bavik. Well, we're glad that we're able to help you level up your CSS abilities.
Yeah,
really.
and certainly adding that customization will give it even a more professional feel to it, because it'll look a little less bootstrappy and more customized.
Yeah. I would say make like a bunch of web pages where you're just kind of taking in the components, learning how they work, and then once you have an idea of how do I want my vision to differ from the default vanilla components, then you can actually apply the custom CSS and maybe do some research and figure out which of the Sass mixins or Sass variables are being used for a given thing, which someone mentioned earlier. Because Bootstrap is all written in Sass, you can actually dive in and change it yourself using your own style sheets. Drop lefts here, which are pretty cool, right? You can drop it to the left, instead drop it to the right, drop it down, drop it above. Menu items. Oh, you can use, these are buttons, I guess. That's pretty cool. Menu alignment, right align menu. That doesn't seem like a right align menu. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. You can change the headers of your menus. That's pretty cool. So we have a non-interactive header here, but then we have the two actual elements of it. But yeah, lots of cool stuff. Menu forms even, that's cool. So you can actually have a form within a menu.
Yeah, I think Twitter does that, which makes a lot of sense now that that they're related.
They got some ties.
Yeah, you click in the little sign in, a little login menu pops out.
It's pretty cool. Now forms. Forms is a gargantuan. Oh, by the way, there's a newer version of Bootstrap 4 between the start of today. I think this might be an alert. Yeah, this looks like a block level alert. But we have if you look at the forms page is just massive. There's so much that you can do with forms in Bootstrap.
Yeah, we took a look at the basic forms in the earlier documentation, but this gives it a little bit more style, a little bit more of that Bootstrap feel, because the other one was very HTML-esque.
Yeah. The stuff you can do with forms is pretty incredible. You get obviously all of the form elements that you get in raw HTML completely restyled. But on top of that, you can also group things together really nicely using form groups. So that just means putting things together, right? Yep. You can have things sort of, if we get down to it here, let's see where it is. You can, first of all, you can nicely horizontally align checkboxes and stuff like that. Yeah. But where is it? You can have things like this, where you have form rows, where you can actually have, using the column system, the Bootstrap column system, you have the first name and the last name that fit the grid. And we actually didn't really look too much at the layout, which is probably what we should do before we maybe dive too much into anything else. But containers look like this, where you can have containers that are side by side. A container is represented by both of these. These are both two separate containers that are different sizes. Containers can span the entire width of the page as well. But where do we have more information? I think it's the grid system here. Yeah. So by default, you can create columns by specifying rows. And then within that row, sort of like how tables work with, TRs and TDs, you specify rows and then columns. And you can specify small columns, medium columns, large columns, and that will those classes will become active or disabled depending on the size of your device.
Yep.
The media queries will change the classes. In this case, if we're on a small device or larger, right, which is pretty much any device, we'll have these 3 columns here. Now we could have another extra medium column, and depending on the size, those would change, and those would become active. The small ones would become disabled, right?
And that's sort of the nature of mobile first. You always start with the smallest device type that you're trying to format for, and then work your way up.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
opposed to the reverse.
Now, if you notice, if you're creating a row and you just specify a call, just a column without specifying, a number or anything, it'll automatically figure out how big the column should be. It'll fill the system for you. So you can see in this row, for example, we have 2 columns. And as a result of that, it's kindly auto figured out that it needs to be 2 columns that span each half the size of the container. And the same thing applies to this row down here. This row has 3 columns, right? 3 divs that are all given the class column. And you might be able to hear that siren out there. Apologize for that. But you can see here that these all 3 fit in the exact same space, but they're given different sizes.
Yeah.
Pretty nice. Very flexible. Same thing here. And we're actually given a W100 for, I believe that's to specify the sort of the breakpoint in this particular example. Yeah, because in this case we're given one row, but we want 2 columns, and then we want it to break. So we say width 100, and then it breaks to the next set of columns, effectively. Oh, the cops are going to get you, says Kaiser Twitch. We're just going to have 3 monitors instead of 2 right now. This stream, Adam, and the page I'm working on. I totally feel that, 100%.
You need all the screen real estate you can get.
I often will split Adam and a doc page, and that will mean that I can code and see the documentation on one monitor, and then have another monitor dedicated to a video or whatever, right? But you could also split your video and your documentation. You don't need to have this in too big of a view, because you should have the Bootstrap documentation probably open if you're doing Bootstrap programming. Should I feel guilty? I'm listening while I'm at work. No, not at all. As long as you're being productive, just stay productive.
You're only guilty if you get caught.
You're only guilty if you get caught, says Andre. Yeah, exactly. If you're coding at work, right, and you're learning Bootstrap to get better at coding.
This is professional development.
This is professional development. Exactly. Excuse me. So yeah, different ways you can lay out the columns, and you can specify if you want the size of them a little bit more specifically with a number. And Bootstrap uses a 12-column system. So if you say call 6, that's the equivalent of half the screen or half the container, right?
Yep.
If you do call 3, those 2 add up to 6, so it'll only take up half the size of the container. Those will be 2 25% wide containers.
Yeah, and the use case that you might want to use this for is, so by default, it's going to split everything up equally. But say if you wanted to give one of them like half of the screen real estate and the other to split between the other half, then that's when you would want to explicitly say how many columns to make that.
Exactly. By default, it'll assume you want to use the entire width of your container, which is not necessarily the case.
Or just divide it up equally, like that example right there.
This is a good demonstration of specifying that you want call 8, and you want one column to be large and one column to be smaller. Call 8 makes this one 2/3 of the size of the screen, and then this one just makes it 1/3, call 4.
Yeah.
So it's super
Sometimes
nice.
you have to do a little math, like depending on how you want to break it up.
Yeah. So this is great. This is the column system in a nutshell, and you can specify whether you want them to apply when you're using a medium device, a small device, a large device, and this will responsively adjust how things are laid out depending on whether you're using a phone or a computer or a small browser window or a large browser window, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think it goes all the way down to extra small too.
It does. Extra small is the default.
Yeah.
And then small, if you say small, that will be explicitly applied on top of extra small. Yeah, so you can do lots of cool stuff with it. Definitely check out the grid page so that you can get a sense of how the column system works. You can do some vertical alignment now that there's Flexbox, and this is a little bit of some fanciness that you can apply to it. But that is, I think, a necessary bit of information because we were just looking at input groups, right? And we were looking at forms.
Yeah.
And in forms, we were looking specifically at form rows, or form grids, form rows, which was down here.
Yeah, form grid.
form row. So right here, these are effectively using the column system. You can say I want a column and a column, which is right here, just like this, column and a column. Only this time they're given form controls instead of being a paragraph or an image or whatever. Now the form is adhering to the Bootstrap grid system, which is super nice and convenient.
Yeah, and again, we can certainly change the column size just by adding in those numbers right after a column.
Yeah. Are those rings on the right-hand fingers? Are those some kind of finger relaxants? Says Rizwan Atta. Now these are rings, Amazon rings. Those cheap rings I got on Amazon. Except for my index finger one, my best friend got me for my birthday a long time ago, or for Christmas, I forget. It was for some holiday, but it's a glow-in-the-dark ring. It's pretty cool. Does Bootstrap play well with CSS Grid? Says M4NJ. I don't have a lot of experience. I think it actually inherits CSS Grid to a degree. Actually, no. I think it doesn't inherit CSS Grid, it inherits just Flexbox, but you can certainly use CSS Grid in conjunction with it. You might get some odd behavior depending on what you're trying to do. Here's an example of a more fleshed out form, which you might use several of the features for. You can see we have 2 fields here, 1 field here, 1 field here, 3 fields here.
Yep.
And we could maybe assume that this is maybe a call 6 or a call 6, then a call 4 and a call 2 right here. So things are laid out in the size that you might expect, right? And then finally we have a checkbox and then a button that submits the form. And you can see more examples of different kinds of forms the more you scroll down and get a sense of it.
And I think, too, there's some Bootstrap JavaScript that will sort of give you some nice formatting for verification of fields. So, for instance, if you require that a user has a name or an email address, it will make it red if they don't have any text there when it's submitted or something like that.
I had seen that, and I'm trying to figure out where that was. Where was that? That wasn't Popover, was it?
No, Popover is sort of like tooltip.
Oh, right. Yeah. Where was the...
It might be in forms all the way at the bottom.
Forms all the way at the bottom.
No.
I definitely saw this. I was looking at the docs yesterday. There is a way to do this. It's pretty nice.
It gives a nice visual aspect to...
Oh, validation.
Yeah,
Here we
validation.
go. So
if you want to take out mark or something.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So when you submit the form, you can see that it sort of adds some elements below all of your fields here where things look okay or things don't look okay. Or you're missing data or it doesn't follow the right validation. You have the ability to add valid and invalid styles to your elements.
Yeah, and of course, obviously we can tell that requires some logic, so we're going to need something more than a markup language or CSS to implement that.
Yeah, exactly. So a very robust form system. I mean, the whole framework is very robust and meant to work very well together. It's amazing. Input groups are cool because these let you sort of group things together, like on the same line, for example. Here's an @ so it sort of tell you that this should be an @ username, and then that just means that's how you're going to reference your username in that domain, maybe on Discord or Slack or some other application or Twitter. You can size things up just like that. A lot of these are a little bit more niche, depending on the style that you want. Here's one that has a first and last name integrated together into one widget, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's not something I've seen very often.
I'm not sure how I feel about that design-wise. I think the norm is to have 2 separate boxes.
Yeah,
for first
I think I agree with that. But it just goes to show you how flexible you can actually get with it. Segmented buttons being used in conjunction with an input group. So lots of really cool stuff. Jumbotron, this is cool. This is kind of like, I mean, it's not a really sophisticated component, but it allows you to maybe put something on the front of your web page.
Like an announcement sort of deal.
Right here at the very front, it has big text, which is just a display tag with I think the other paragraph thing that we saw that jumps out or whatnot, and then a smaller one, and then a button with a horizontal rule with margin on it. So yeah, you got a lot of cool stuff you can do with this, but it's meant to kind of just be like a boom, here's my website,
If you've taken CS50 on edX, there are announcements on the homepage, and it kind of mirrors that same effect.
Yeah. List groups. So these are cool. This allow you to sort of group things together stylistically in a list to give you a little bit more visual, I guess, sophistication rather than just displaying text. So all a bunch of different examples. Here again we have some colorization, a la the buttons and the prior stuff that we've seen. Here we go, the same thing with hovering, right? So a nice, more interesting way to show lists than just simple text, right? with badges too. So here, the nice thing about the documentation is it lets you sort of call back to other things that we just learned and mix them together. So in this case, we looked at badges. You can just mix things together, just integrate them together, right? And they're usually inline. In this case, the span for the badge goes within the li, which has the list group and all this other stuff. That's pretty useful. Here's a list group that has pretty complicated content, right? We can actually activate any of them. But we notice that one of them has the active class applied to it, which turns it blue. And it has a little bit of a small element up here which shows you how many days ago something did something or whatever. This could easily be a badge as well with a notification number. Here's a heading. Here's a paragraph. Here's a smaller paragraph.
And if you wanted to fetch that sort of dynamically, you'd probably need some JavaScript, that 3 days ago thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you could also serve it from a like Flask backend too if you wanted to, if you wanted to render it server side. But here we have a JavaScript sort of thing where you would click on a list item and it would swap in and out text in a given area, right? Or at least set something to active or not active. Active to true or false. Active none. I forget what it is. Disabled. I think it's displayed. Yeah, it might be disabled or display none. And there's a lot of other fancy JavaScript stuff that we can do.
Call 6 alongside call medium 4. Will it auto prefer according to screen the website is running on?
Call 6 alongside a call MD4. So if
Those are two different things because one of them is specifying screen size and then a column size, whereas one is just saying column 6 though.
Yeah, if you have call 6 and call MD4 together, what it's basically going to do is call 6 will be the default, and then if you're running on a medium device, it'll apply call MD4.
Yeah, and then everything else will be 6.
Yeah. Assuming that that's the same element.
Yeah.
But yeah, is Bootstrap still bloated? Says Prolimer. If you're talking about maybe the CSS classes, I mean they can get a bit verbose. If you're referring to the actual the byte size, the distribution, it's not terribly large, but you can use a CDN link, and usually this gets cached anyway. And we're talking maybe 50 to 90 kilobytes, I think, for the CSS. Actually, it might be 150 for the full Bootstrap.
I think we looked at it. It was like 190 something
for the regular, and then 152 I think for the min version. Yeah, so it's not terrible. Again, it gets cached typically if you're using it, and a user is going to your website over and over again. So not a huge concern, but I would say it can get bloated in the sense that we're writing pretty dense sets of classes for all of our elements. And that can get a little bit large. Thankfully, they're pretty readable.
Yeah.
I don't find it too overwhelming or too heavy, too thick.
And you can certainly abstract it even more and sort of assign a bunch of classes to one thing. And then do it
Using Sass, you can definitely do that. Modals are cool. So these are like windows that you can dismiss. In this case, it's not working for some reason. I'm not sure if it's supposed to or not. Demo modal here.
There.
Here we go. So you have a modal. It turns your screen dark. It puts a modal up in front. So really flexible, really cool. They have a long modal that you can scroll through, which is pretty cool.
Which might be used for something like terms and conditions before you sign up for a website.
Yes, absolutely. Vertical centered one. So this is cool. So this one, instead of coming up at the top of the screen, it actually comes right in the center. And I see modals like this all the time, which is pretty cool. J.M. Anderson, so glad to catch one of these live. I actually use Bootstrap heavily in my day job as a UX designer for prototyping. At night, I've been taking and loving your game dev class. Awesome, thanks J.M. Anderson. You're probably much better at using Bootstrap than I am if you're a designer that uses it on the regular. But I'm happy that you've been tuning into my game dev class. Hope you've been enjoying that. I know that Adam Mantine has been tuning into that as well, and I believe Adam just finished the Match 3 lecture, which was one of my favorites to program. So shout outs to Adam for, and also to JM for taking the game dev class. And if you haven't taken it already, cs50.edx.org/games, I believe.
I think that's right.
If you want to take the class. And I think I have the chat widget disabled again on the screen because I hit C. I really have to disable that chat macro because it gets through the chat every time I press C, which is unfortunate.
I think there's also, so if you're interested in this, we also have a course on edX that sort of dives more deeply into web development.
Oh, true.
Brian.
Yeah, we should probably plug that as well. So cs50.edx.org/web.
Yeah.
And That's Brian's course. Excellent course on web development. They cover. Some people have asked about Django. He covers Django in that course. And Flask. Lots of cool stuff.
And there's lots of Bootstrap sort of projects that you can work on there as well.
And then press C again to make sure the chat's enabled, which it should be. Everyone spam chat so we make sure that the chat is enabled again. I can't see whether the chat box widget is currently live. I have to kind of guess. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Okay. So here's a demo modal of, oh, this is cool. So we have a modal that actually is illustrating the grid within it. So this is a nice, robust way of illustrating just how powerful Bootstrap is. I love it. Modal for MDO.
Yep, so you can definitely fill in like form type things.
Get Bootstrap. Yeah, this is amazing. Yeah. Love the modals. I love all the stuff they just give you for free. And you're obviously able to change pretty much anything.
Yeah.
To suit your needs, right? And there's a lot of JavaScript that goes with it. Again, I think a future stream is warranted where we can actually use JavaScript stuff and actually make a very dynamic web page. That'd be like a Mondrian modal, just add color. Not familiar with that term. You're gonna have to explain that one, Andre, I apologize. So navs are cool. Navs are one of the things that I think of when I see Bootstrap.
Yeah.
I mean, more specifically nav bars, because navs are just sets of links together. Nav bars actually use the navs in a more robust way. And actually,
it's very familiar. Most websites have a nav bar at the top, and that's how you sort of navigate through the site, right?
Yeah, exactly. On here, for example, on the getbootstrap.com webpage, at the very top, we do have a nav bar in use. And I'm 100% sure that Bootstrap uses Boot for its own webpage. That would be silly if it used like Semantic UI or something.
Yeah.
But you can see if you want to lay out links all together in groups, you absolutely can do that. And the semantic for that is a nav and a nav item.
Yeah, and that's probably how they implemented this home, documentation, examples, themes, expo, blog set of links at the top.
Exactly. You have a nav bar within which are sets of navs. In this case, this is a set of navs, this is a set of navs. Some of the navs are images, some of them are links, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and we also have like a little drop down there for the different versions, because we can definitely look at documentation for version 3 or other previous versions.
Exactly, yeah. Which goes to show you that you can mix and match things within your navs, just like you can mix and match things everywhere else.
Is there a component for side navbar in Bootstrap? I think there's a vertical navbar.
There's not a side navbar. I was looking at it yesterday. They have just the horizontal navbar, but not a side one. You kind of have to roll your own. But there was a really good website that I saw, Sidebar Bootstrap. And I think it was this one. Yeah, this one here. So if you go to bootstrapius.com/p/bootstrap sidebar, or in Google just type sidebar bootstrap, and it's this first link here, they cover how to use Bootstrap 4, which is what we're using, and they implement 4 different ways of adding a sidebar like this, which is really cool. Ones that toggle, and then ones that are static. And this, I was looking at this yesterday because I was hoping that we could take our last demo that used regular CSS and sort of implemented the CS50 homepage and make a Bootstrap version of it, but it was going to be a little bit more complex than just a simple port. But we will be covering, if we have time, a horizontal navbar. So, oh, and we have a little modal here too. Nice. So that's a great tutorial if you're curious about that. Now here we have a set of links that are centered, right aligned. We have vertical aligned navs, which are great.
Which you'd probably end up using in a side navbar, right? Those vertical stacks.
Exactly. So you will still use these navs if you were to make your own sidebar, which is great. This is cool because you can actually have tabs. And depending on if you have a certain tab active, you might display content, right? You might display certain types of content, which is really cool. You can use pills for the same thing. You can have pill badges, pills. They're called nav pills in this context, but they're functionally similar to the badges that we saw before. Oh, Pierre Mondrian was a Dutch abstract painter, and it might be Piet Mondrian, but I wanted to guess Pierre. Andre plugged a link too for a ping. Can you run the Poke Web that you have made in Safari once and also in developer mode mobile view just to check, says Rizwan. Sure. So we'll take this and then we'll go to Safari and then we'll run this. We'll see how this looks. Hopefully it doesn't look horrible.
Yeah, sometimes different browsers will sort of render things differently, and some of the HTML5 stuff specifically. So it's just something to be aware of. You don't always have the bandwidth to develop for all of your browsers. So it can get a little dicey depending on on the resources that you have when you're developing, for sure.
I would say this looks identical in Safari. So that's a nice thing. It's a very portable framework. And if we bring it down a little bit, you can see that it is indeed reaching breakpoints, those media query breakpoints, and resizing the table dynamically, which is great. And it's still fitting all the content within there like it needs to until we get to this point, at which point it is a little bit iffy behavior. But typically your browsers aren't going to be that small until you're in mobile view. In this case, for a table, I would say probably we would need to do something different. I'm not entirely sure how I would implement this. I would probably change it into a different view altogether. I'd probably make it vertical, and I would have everything in a very condensed sort of iconic view, like 5 with the XP and the health bar below. And the Pokemon card application would be a lot more appropriate for something like that. But for a table, typically not a mobile-friendly thing to do. Maybe for our next iteration in a future stream or something.
You might even need to add your own breakpoint there, just to make sure that when your browser window gets that small, that it will actually translate.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he also requested to open it with developer mode, so we could see mobile.
Sure.
Chrome.
So that was okay. So we can do that in get rid of Safari, go into here, and then in developer mode, it actually doesn't look bad, but it's a little bit screwy.
Yeah,
but
you can pick your device.
I'll pick the iPhone X, for example. Now, it's a bit, the thing that is a little bit iffy is the fact that there's a little bit of default padding on the left with containers. And we might be able to get rid of that, actually, if we do container fluid. So if I change this to container fluid, and then I re-render that, nope, that didn't fix it. So
you can even inspect the element when you're in developer mode.
Yeah, so if we do over here, it looks like it's our container.
Yep.
Okay, which is interesting. So if we actually get rid of the container, I'm curious if we can do that and just have it be completely a table by itself. Yep, so that's great.
Nice.
So once we got rid of the table, it fits the whole page. It's a container fluid, so now it's going to dynamically fit everything. It's going to look a lot nicer. Now, the thing that's a little bit iffy is the images here. Because it's container fluid, it's actually filling the entire page. I don't necessarily want that, I don't think. Or, well, actually, no, it's not container fluid anymore because it's reusing a table.
Yeah, we totally took out the container there.
Yeah, we did. So in this case, I would probably say these should all be aligned center as well, or at least the images. Because the images, I'm not a huge fan of how they're kind of left aligned. So why don't we do that? Why don't we say align center? I'm not sure if this works.
Avik Knight says Bulbamania or something. Oh, in reference to where you get the Pokemon images.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the
Bulbapedia.
Bulbapedia. There you go.
Bulbagarden.bulbapedia.net, I think is the actual.
Bulb Garden. There's so many different iterations here. Internet is not cooperating today. Oh, thanks for the link, Kloppenberg and Kloppenberg.
Let's figure out how to Bootstrap for table cell center. Because I don't like how the
text align center, I think.
We can use text align center, but there was a for Bootstrap 4 there was a way to do it.
You can even search right within the Bootstrap documentation as well. There's like a little search bar there.
Let's see.
Hi, CS50, am I late? A little. We started at 1, so we've been going for about 2 hours now.
Oh, Volahue 1998. Yeah, wait, how long have we been going for?
About 2 hours.
Have we really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow, okay.
Time flies.
2 hours and 21 minutes. Geez, I did not realize we've been going that long. Yeah, we're pretty late. The video will be, I thought we were like at an hour and 10 minutes or something. This has been a very fast stream. We're probably going to go for just a little bit longer, maybe 10 more minutes, and then maybe just to implement a basic vertical or horizontal nav bar. And then this video, for those who did miss it, it will be on YouTube afterwards. You can go to YouTube, it should be tonight, and you can watch the whole thing in its glory. And also on Twitch, we have the VOD, which should be immediately available afterwards. So go to videos on Twitch on our channel, and you should see it.
And Rare Eddie 5 says class equals text center.
Will that work on the table? Let's try it. Oh, that's beautiful. That was easy. Amazing. Thank you, Indra Reddy, for that. Okay, so, and I think the reason that we had that before, we had it in a div that had text center applied to it. That's why it was working before. So we have, I think, objectively made it look better.
Yeah.
Until that point, in which case it starts to look a little
Which I think
screwy.
is the extra small.
Yeah. And we could have I mean, ideally, we'd have a query that turns these badges into small badges when we get here. You know, because right now they're in H3s. Ideally, we'd want to change that styling.
Yep.
But
And maybe even change the font size or
Yeah.
something similar depending on the screen size.
Yeah, exactly. 10 more hours, says Kaiser Twitch, and that would be a little bit rough.
Be a marathon stream.
Yeah. Okay, so these are navs. Let's go over to the nav bar, which is the fun stuff. And let's just pick a nav bar. So we have nav bars that you can just plug and play for free, basically, which is great. And it's kind of all this code, and it gets a little bit bulky.
Yeah.
We're going to, let's just do this one for, not a search. We'll do a search for now. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll go ahead and copy that. Here it'll go above our table. So right there. Cover all of this, and we'll just indent all of this. So this one actually has a form with a search bar, which is kind of cool. And this it has to be a dark theme. I mean, come on, right?
Okay, we're being consistent. I can agree with that.
And if I refresh, we do indeed have a nav bar up top. The nav bar text itself is a little light or dark. So how do we actually make that light? Let's see here.
You could probably like change text color, right? That's one way.
Where's the dark theme part of it? Let's see. Oh, I see. Nav bar. You have to change it to nav bar dark, background dark. Oh, but we did that. But how do we change the color to be light? Nav bar brand. Wait. Nav bar dark, background dark. We did that. So it should have made it light, right? It should have changed all of the. I mean, this looks okay. I kind of like this search, how it's green there, and then this is this bar, but I don't like this. I don't like that at all. So let's change this to my and I'm gonna get fancy. My Pokemon party, right? Refresh that. So it's cool. I got a nice party. It's actually taking up the full size of the web browser too, almost, which is pretty cool. And then navbar brand. How do we change that? Color.
Go back to the...
Because it's weird. Because here and they say when you go to the dark theme, right? They have navbar. Well, let's go down to where they have the dark theme. Right here. They have navbar dark, background dark, right?
Yeah, we literally...
You know what? Let's use the developer tools out of this. Oh shoot, but it's going to be in mobile view. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, and you can see that one of the built-in features is that it'll adjust your nav bar to go from all of those links to what we call a burger menu, which is just those 3 lines and a button. It just makes it a little bit easier when you're viewing something on mobile, just so that you can sort of not have all that clutter at the top of your screen, because your screen real estate is very valuable when you're talking about something small like a phone.
Yeah.
Someone says remove the class from the anchor.
It needs to have the navbar brand. As we can see in the actual thing here, this definitely does have a navbar brand class attached to it, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing something here?
Did you give it just...
Navbar dark, background dark. We don't need the navbar expand large. That just has to do with this thing, I think.
Did you give it just the regular navbar class? Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah, but you need to. Navbar
Yeah.
and then navbar dark, background dark. Justify content between. That is not expected behavior. Huh.
Why don't you try copy and pasting the other one?
I mean, what I could do, if I really wanted to, I could just say
Font.
style equals color white. There we go. That's how we do it, right? Beautiful. Perfect. Works just as expected. I'm not sure. It should normally work just fine, but it didn't. I'm not
This
sure.
one says, where are the bars that you were saying, like the powers or?
Oh, right. Yeah, we have to do the progress bars.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's the last thing we'll do. That's the last thing we'll do. So we're going to go down to progress here, which is another component part. And it's literally just these. You have these little bars that fill with color, right? And you can even have striped, which is pretty cool. If we go down to here, you can have striped. And this is actually a CSS animation. So you don't even need JavaScript for this. You can actually toggle an animation. But this is how you would do a progress bar. So we could imagine you could make this different colors depending on how much health your Pokemon has. If it has full health, maybe it's green. Half, maybe it's yellow, and then really low, maybe it's red. And then you could even do multiple bars, which is kind of cool if you wanted to show this. I see this and I think of like what's my distribution of like disk space on my computer,
Yeah.
right? Like how much am I using of music, photos, videos, etc., right? But here what we want to do is I'm just going to take a simple progress bar. Actually, I'm going to do one with a number. So this one right here. You're literally going to copy and paste this progress bar. Notice it has the class progress. And you can specify its width, value now, value min, value max, etc., which gives you a lot of flexibility. And within each of the, I guess right here, where we have this 30, I'm just going to paste that in right there. That looks horrible. So I'm going to do this, do this. How's this look? Okay, that looks okay, I think. Yep. Cool, so that's looks a little bit better, I think. Let's just make sure this looks okay. So I'm going to say value now is going to be, what did we say it was before? It was 30. That's the amount of health, right?
Yep.
So we'll say 30, and we'll say that the max value will be 50. And then the actual text needs to say 30. Let's render this. We'll see how this looks. Awesome. Wait, no, actually, no, that's not awesome. That's 30 out of 100. So it's not rendering it out of 50. So it needs to be out of 50. Width 25%. Value now is 30. Value min 0. Value max 50. Interesting.
Does it have to do with the width, maybe?
This style width is 25%?
Yeah.
I don't think so. If we get rid of that.
Oh,
No,
weird.
it makes it even
That
worse.
makes it worse.
Yeah. No. Let me see. Value 30. Hold on. Bootstrap, progress bar, value now. So it's rendering out of 100. Oh, actually, let's just look at the actual documentation. So this says, I mean, these are all 0, 25.
It looks like this width thing is the percentage of the bar that is full.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see. Okay. So if we were to say then, what's 30 out of 50? That's 60%? Let's try that.
There you go.
Okay, good enough. Good enough. Okay, so you actually have to dynamically calculate that then. Okay, which isn't too hard. You're doing value now over value max, and there's CSS calc functions that you can do that will do that.
Really?
But I'm not sure if we can do it now. I don't think you can do it with HTML attributes. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's you do that with like CSS attributes. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, Project the teacher says 60%. Control Shift V, paste with automatic indentation. Ah, that's cool. Control Shift V. I'll have to probably Command Shift V on my computer. I'll have to take a look at that. So we're gonna do that with everybody. And I'm actually going to make it, I want to make it a green progress bar. So how do I
Probably
change that
success somewhere.
Yeah, probably, right? Yeah, BG success. Okay, so it's wait, that goes on the actual div, the inner div. So do BG success, right? If I re-render it, now it's like health bar. Beautiful. So copy this a bunch of times where we have the health here. Didn't work for me. The Control Shift V didn't work for me, unfortunately, so I might have to tinker with it to figure it out.
It might also be specific to the editor. It might be different.
Yeah, that's true. Cool. I got that. Let's make sure that that renders appropriately, which it does not. Oops.
You just put it in the wrong.
Oh, I did. I screwed that up big time. Screwed that up big time. Okay.
I give an extra NTD.
Oh wait, I'm putting it in the wrong spot, aren't I? Yeah, I am. So this needs to go. Basically, what I want to do is replace this, like with that. No, I want to get rid of this and that, and then like, shoot, get rid of that. Okay, we can do this, and then that. Okay, is that rendering correctly? Perfect. Now I can just copy and paste this whole thing and get rid of this whole thing here, which is great, just like that.
So, Lince Podiquara says this shortcut works on VS Code, but you have to do it on a new line.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So yeah, we have health bars. XP bars would be the next extension, and then we can be finished. And the XP would, I think, be background warning. So we make it a yellow bar.
Yep.
We could change the background color on us if we wanted to. But let's go ahead and just do this. This is going to be 50 out of 100. So this is going to be with 50%. Value now is 50 out of 100. And we'll say that this is 50. And then we'll shift all this backwards.
While Colton's sort of mapping the text that shows up to the percentage, you certainly could put like health is good or some other semantic
exactly,
text there just to clarify what you actually mean. It doesn't need to be the exact number that you're displaying.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's about it. And if we refresh, we do indeed now have XP bars as well.
Very cool.
So this is cool. We have a much better, nicer looking table than we did in the HTML stream, right?
For sure.
We've upgraded our aesthetics quite a bit, and it was very easy. All of this stuff is just kind of done for you. It's like I've made the analogy several times already. It's a buffet where you're picking and choosing the pieces that you want to put together to create your project. And at the end of the day, you can adjust it however you want it to look, but you have all the tools you need to make modern-looking web applications. And they'll be recognizable as such if you don't do much customization, but it's still much better, I think, than dealing with raw HTML, raw CSS. And then once you get to that next level where you do have the ability to write all your own stuff, you can start to tinker with it and really customize it to get it to look just how you want.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. There's other things that we haven't had time to cover yet, like scroll spy, tooltips, popovers, pagination, all the utilities, more of the other stuff down here. Bootstrap is a large framework. It has a lot of stuff. It's great if you want to dive into it, and we didn't even really touch on the JavaScript stuff either at all.
No. Or even the media breakpoints and stuff.
Yeah, but that'd be a lot of fun. So in the future, we'll definitely think about doing something like that, putting together a more robust application. I do like the Pokemon card idea, the trading card idea. It'd be a nice way to tie JavaScript into Bootstrap and use the JavaScript cards. I'm going to transition us to the other screen over here because I think we're about ready to wrap up. But if anybody has any last questions for me or Aaron, definitely let us know. Apologies that this week has been a little bit light on the streaming. It's been kind of a rough week. But next week, we'll be doing a bunch of streams. Let me pull up actually what the streams we have going are.
Kaiser Twitch says, over the entire course of this stream, I've been converting to a different library for getting color palettes. Finally just finished, and it turns out it is broken and only returns blue. Not sure why, but in terms of color palettes, I like coolers.co. I think it's RZ. Do you want to do a quick Google?
What is it?
Coolers.co. I'm not sure. Maybe with an S.
Coolers.co. Let's just type that. Coolors.co.
Okay.
Right.
That's what it is.
Oh, we use this on stream.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, this is a cool website.
Yes, it's great for sort of finding that color palette that may match your company or whatever web vibe you're going for when you're developing, and it allows you to sort of pin a color and then find other colors that go with it in a palette of like 5 or so colors.
Fearlax, is there a reason why you work with 4.0 instead of the latest version? I thought we were using the latest version. Were we using 4.0? Maybe I was...
now it's... Remember they released a new one.
Oh, interesting. I'm not sure why it had the 4.0 documentation up. In another tab, I have the 4.2 one up for some reason. But yeah, I was unaware that that was even happening. But version 4, all of the stuff should more or less be the same. They may have added some new stuff. Can we get a gist of the HTML file for this sweet Pokemon web page, please? Sure, yeah, I can put one together for you. Shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Let me see. What happened to the solitaire stream, says that chat cat? I got really sick on, what was it, 2 days ago, Wednesday, when we had it scheduled, and so I couldn't come in. But we'll reschedule it, and I'll put it in the stream schedule, so we'll have it in the near future at some point. But yeah, that was unfortunate timing. I apologize for that, but it's coming. I promise. We'll do one in the near future. And we'll do a crypto one as well with Nick. Not this next Monday because it's a holiday, but the Monday afterwards, we should be able to get Nick in for a crypto stream and have that work fine. All right, cool, cool. How is your health now, Colton, says Bavik? Well, I appreciate you asking, Bavik. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much, though. Just needed a bit of rest. Everything is great. I forgot to bookmark, and I'm in incognito. What was that JS 30 days link? Shoot, I don't remember what that was either. But yeah, that was up on this.
I think it was like javascript30.com.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. Yeah, it's way up there. If anybody knows the link, definitely plug it for Bavik. Javascript30.com. Nice. M4 was on the case.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet. Let me go ahead and just maximize this really quick here. Cool, cool. For some reason, this isn't showing. There we go. Awesome. But yeah, that was Bootstrap. Schedule for the upcoming stream. Sorry, I had so many things. I got distracted. I apologize. The next week, what we're going to have is another code review on Tuesday, so tune in for that one. On Wednesday, David's going to talk about the CS50 Sandbox, which is a package that he put together to make it easy to sort of come up with easy coding environments for people. It's what our labs are built upon. Possibly on Thursday, Kareem is going to do an Electron tutorial, so we'll follow up with that. And then on Friday, we have a web scraping stream with Emily Hong. It'll be her first time on stream. So we have quite a lot of stuff lined up next week. Nothing that I'm hosting myself. And then the week after that, Nick's back in town, and then we should have a bunch of other stuff lined up. But the Twitch schedule, the little plugin that we now have on the bottom of our Twitch page, that should list everything. So as soon as we have a new event, I end up putting it in there, and you'll see it when you log into Twitch. It's a nice little plugin. And thank you, Fearlax, Baby Youngie, Volihue, 1998, and Sahil XP. I think I might have read that one off earlier. But thank all of you for the follows. Baby Punji and Fearlax at the same time. Thank both of you. Let me just make sure I can read the chat. I got the chat kind of taken away. So, you should never apologize when you're sick. I appreciate that, Nate. Thank you. Schedule for upcoming stream, which has been done. Thank you, Colton. Been consuming water and feel great. Awesome. Thanks, Twin Tower Power. I'm glad that you have been. Great stream, says Bella Cures and Martin. Thanks, Eric, Colton, Eric. Thanks, Martin, for tuning in. Thanks, Patagora. Stay hydrated. Agreed. Yeah, definitely stay hydrated. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Oh, shoot, Asley. All right, the last second. No wonder 353. That's okay. The VOD will be up, and then you'll have another vid on Monday or Tuesday, actually. We'll have another stream on Tuesday. So tune in for that one. It'll be a code review one. Colin was sick, get well soon. Thanks, Ashley, appreciate it. I see that boy in YouTube says Valahoy 1998. I'm not sure if it was referring to me. Born dia. Bom dia. Is it morning in Portuguese? That's how you say good morning. And I believe that's how you say good morning in Portuguese, right?
I don't speak a lick of Portuguese.
All the Portuguese folks in the chat definitely verify this for us. Chat Cat, thank you for the stream. My pleasure. Sorry again about Solitaire, but it's coming soon. Thanks, guys. Can't appreciate enough what you guys do week in and out. See you next time. Thanks, Nimman118. Much appreciated. Oops, shake. Thanks, Naren. And then what's for the evening? I think dinner is for the evening. I am starving.
They meant in Portuguese.
I am starving. What?
They meant what is in Portuguese.
Well, either way, I'm starving and I'm going to eat something.
There you go.
You're learning at Harvard.
We're located at Harvard.
Located, teaching, and learning. I mean, I'm learning every day. Yeah. I'm learning doing this. So
I'm taking some classes.
Yeah,
here.
Technically speaking, I guess we're both learning.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
All right, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.
going to tune us out. Thanks to Erin. Special thanks to Erin. Shout outs for her joining us for the first time.
Aaron, move.
There we go. Beautiful. We just get you. We just get you in the background just doing that also.
Yeah.
Rack up that view count. Astronomical. My voice sounds sick. I don't think my voice sounds sick. Maybe I sound tired. That could be it.
That's probably what it is.
Obrigado. Yeah, that's how you say thank you. Furlax. And goodbye, teachers, as well in 1988. Cool, cool. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Thanks to Erin. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday for another code review stream and a bunch of streams thereafter. So stay safe and see you in just a few days. Bye-bye.
Bye.